or oops. You know what I did?
What?
I went to a barbecue for kids. My wife has friends from school, and I went there.
Like your kid's like second or third grade?
Yeah. She's in first grade, I think.
That's that Calabasas shit. Mm-hmm.
And a barbecue, kids playing, and then my wife was looking good. I kept looking at her, and
Got
she all
that old 1-2 Brian Callen hard on?
And she went to the bathroom, and I go, I gotta go to the bathroom too. Where is it? And so she goes to the bathroom, and I bull my way in. I bull rush into the door. She goes, what are you doing?
Know, your wife had to drop a deuce.
Well, no, man.
That potato salad got your stomach all on the fridge.
No, that's not how the story goes. You can't just come in and edit the story,
Sorry.
bro. What do you mean she got to drop a deuce?
I feel like I can read your mind. I thought that's where you were going.
She ain't shaking no tar.
All right.
What are you doing?
But I thought that potato salad mixed with that macaroni salad mixed with that bullshit.
She wasn't eating any of that stuff. She wasn't eating mayonnaise.
Created the perfect storm.
No.
She shit that summer dress.
No. Can I finish my story?
Yeah, sorry. I've been in Venice too long.
Anyway, she goes to pee, and as she's peeing, I yank the old trousers down and I'm just standing there with my 3-piece set, and I go, oops.
10 Hut.
And she goes, what in the world are you doing? I go, oops.
Well, that's not attractive.
And then she goes, you have to stop saying that loud. I go, well, you got to do something about this guy. Ooh. She goes, I'm peeing. I am not doing anything with that guy. Whoops.
Yeah,
Long story short, you want to fast forward? Go make the fast forward sound.
Well, she's your wife, man.
Hey,
are you bragging that your wife gave you a blowjob?
Hey, man.
At a barbecue?
Don't say that as worse. She's the mother of my children. How do you know? I didn't say that. I said to fast forward it. And how do you know it just was a blowjob? Could have been a gadoosh over the old sink.
Your poor wife.
Hey, man, I don't know. I'm not spilling beans, but I did come back, and my wife's all embarrassed, and I go, had to take care of some business, and we didn't know the people very well.
Hey, everyone, we're back.
She got bright red.
Well,
and our host said, well, this house can create some amorous feelings. I was like,
oh man.
I was like,
seems like
guys,
it seems like they're down for whatever.
Are we all old or what? I know. You never know when you're hanging out with couples in their late 40s, 50s. They of course have to swing.
Oh, there's some freaks.
Sure.
Because they've been together so long.
Yeah.
You know, in Highlands Ranch, where my brother lives,
where my wife is from.
Yeah, where your wife is from, and where your wife's parents live, and where my brother currently lives. You know, on the lawns, to let people know we open for business. They leave flamingos on their lawns.
Really?
Yeah, it's an international sign like, come on in.
Oh, you see the pink bird, it's time to get...
Because I would be driving in like a random house, like, who the fuck leaves those flamingos, which are old school as fuck? Who leaves those flamingos in their yard?
Oh, my God.
Little old Google search.
Really?
Oh, it's international sign for, we like to party. And by party, I mean, we owe them fuck. So come on in.
So you can go Google Maps and...
Well, I don't even know if Google Maps.
Look for the...
No. You just got to drive by and hopefully you see one.
Wow. Knock, knock,
They see
knock.
one. Knock, knock.
I brought cupcakes.
Knock, knock. I'm here for the gangbang.
Oh, yeah. I like that a lot. Do I, though?
Well, the
you never know who you're getting,
Are
right?
attractive people really putting the pink flamingos on their lawn? Probably not.
Probably not.
Probably not.
Well, my buddy, let's just say he was a club owner. He went to pick me up. He was driving me back to the hotel, stand-up, thing. And he goes, I said, how do you make your relationship work? He goes, well, honestly, he goes, we swing. And I was like, oh. And he goes, and we were down in such and such town, and this gorgeous couple is, I can't believe I've never told you this story. You're going to love this story. He goes, this gorgeous couple mixes up, and this guy's like a big-time soap star, a Latin soap star, and the girl's like a Latin soap star, and they're both, and he's like, holy shit, because they're like, he and his girl aren't that good looking. He's like, we hit the jackpot. So he can't wait to get at her, and she can't wait to get at the Latin soap star. So next thing you know,
two trolls.
Oh yeah, they go up to the hotel room, and they're like, bah, bah, and all of a sudden, kissy kissy, and then they switch off. And he's like watching his wife, and he's watching, and then he's really into this girl. He forgets about his wife. He's like, "Damn, this girl's a smoke show." And the next thing you know, he feels
this
a little,
fucking Telemundo dick from behind.
No, he feels a little tonguey tongue down by the down by your bathing suit area. I'm talking about the back of the balls. I'm talking about the bulldog nuts.
Oh,
and it starts making its way up to the old mud whistle. And he goes, that must be my wife, but she doesn't go for my mud way. Whoops.
Damn, that dude's a
That
freak.
dude was getting into him.
What was the wife doing at this time?
She was getting, the wife
She was
like,
exhausted.
what about me? Yeah, I don't know. But he said, whoa, 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 we don't do that. And it got awkward and weird.
Ruin the party.
Yeah.
I think all, you know what I'm saying?
But by the way,
everything's good.
If you're
going to sign up for that, you got to be up to that stuff.
But do you test the waters with your tongue? I mean, do you get behind that? Let me get behind you.
If you look like him, and you gotta, and this troll, what'd you think you were getting up there to do?
I know, but I mean, it's fine, but you don't.
It's like signing for a WWE match. They bring in a launcher, and you're like, what the fuck?
But the guy's not going to jump in, is he? Unless he's
There's a reason you're there.
Hey, man, what rules do you play by, bro?
Why would they have this old ass couple with the hot couple? Yeah, I'm gonna have to play with your bunny hole.
But the hot guy was playing with my buddies.
I know. Your buddy's there for a reason. Because I'm assuming most young, attractive people are like, nah, I ain't down for that shit.
Right. But my buddy wanted to have sex with the girl.
No, I get it.
Not with the guy.
I know everyone does.
But so part of the price is if you want to get to the goose,
troll.
You want to get to the goose, you got to go through the gander.
The troll toll.
The troll toll. Is that the troll toll?
Troll toll. The bunny hole troll.
It's the old troll toll.
The bunny hole troll toll.
Holy cowsy.
Say that 3 times. Bunny hole troll toll.
The bunny hole troll toll. Bunny hole troll toll.
Yeah. Crazy weekend, man. It seems like this day and age, everyone, their mother, is testing positive for steroids.
It's kind of crazy.
PEDs.
Well, let's be honest.
I think,
they work.
Well, yeah. And I think it's prevalent in the sport. I was trying to think. I'm trying to think how I should put this. Because when I was on, Rogan and I were talking about it, I went, no one thinks it's a little fishy that he gets this exemption and they're just going to test him for 4 weeks. But they told Mark Hunt months ago, be ready because a big name could fight at UFC 200.
Right.
So no one thinks that this wasn't their entire plan all along, which I said, and I took so much shit for it. They're like, no, it was a last second deal. I know, Rogan goes, I know what went into it, blah, blah. Dude, you're crazy. You're fucking crazy if you don't think this was the plan all along. And then they sell and they're out, right? So
I'm sorry, but what plan? What plan? Like to get Brock a long time ago?
Because if you put up the Brock signal and he's like, well, bro, I'm in the WWE. Like,
I need to train.
Well, no, not even that. I'm in the WWE. I'm doing what the fuck WWE guys do. I'm on some shit, man. So we don't have the same commission.
Gotcha.
There's no commission for the WWE. Yeah, they have the safe protocols. Well, that's all bullshit. There's no commission. That's not sanctioned. That's all bullshit. So there's no commission drug testing them, right? There's no state commission governing body that's testing them. So if you're in the WWE, I get it, man. It's rough work. Day in, day not, nonstop. So there's a lot of PED use in that sport. Now, if you ask him to fight in the UFC, even if you asked him 6 months ago, his system still wouldn't be cleared. So if you don't think this was the whole plan, and everyone's aware that there was a high probability that he was going to fail these drug tests,
which is okay because he had an exemption, right?
No, it's not okay. Because his exemption was for the 6 months,
okay.
But he got tested for the 4 weeks.
I got
Are you following this?
Okay, I see what you're saying. I got you. Okay,
So remember the argument was, no, he's still getting drug tested. No, you fucking idiots. So let's say right now, I'm retired, right? Let's say right now I go, hey man, I'll come back and fight. USADA is going to say, okay, we're going to test you for the next, I think 4 to 6 months religiously. Make sure you're not taking shit, then you can fight. He got exempt from that. You get what I'm saying?
Yes, I do.
So then he only got tested for those 4 weeks.
Wow.
Before the fight. And they're saying, we didn't know he was going to fight, man. So he's only going to test for 4 weeks. They failed that. And so they go, and it came out, I think they come out today, with John. It's estrogen blockers, which we already knew. Chael talked about. We've spoke about this. So estrogen blockers, right? And so now with Brock Lesnar, they're saying, oh, he had asthma. It's because of asthma. That's the card thing. Asthma.
Because asthma makes you super muscular.
Yeah, I've taken asthma.
Asthma medication makes you. Every time you see people say, that kid with the inhaler, he's like
that kid's jacked.
Well, no, the kid with the inhaler who's insanely jacked.
Most kids with inhalers are.
Why is that guy so muscular? He have asthma?
Oh, it's inhaler, man. God, you're jacked. I know. Thank God this inhaler.
Damn. That's why all those bodybuilders are doing inhalers.
Yeah, it's just, it's crazy to me.
It's ridiculous.
It's just like, if people would just own up to it. If Brock was like, hey, man, here's the thing. Yeah. Here's the fucking thing. I'm in the WWE. It's wear and tear on my body. I take some shit there. They put up the Brock Lesnar sign. They need me to save the card. I did it. I get busted. What the fuck you want me to do, man? I did them a favor. I made $12 million. Right. All right. See, that's there we are.
Is that how much you made for that?
He made good money. Yeah. So, I think the real issue here is. And I tweeted out Mark Hunt's whole argument where he's upset.
It was very interesting, you know.
I sent it to you. I sent that link. Mark Hunt, how he's so upset. He goes, I'm not fighting for the UFC. I want to release from the UFC unless I get half his paycheck.
Right. Because he could have gotten injured, he said.
This is the problem, though. This is the only problem where he kind of screwed himself. Remember, let's rewind 4 weeks ago when Mark Hunt was saying, I know he's on steroids. I'm still going to knock his juice head out. Right. You know, I'm still gonna knock his juice gills out or whatever his exact words were. So he kind of acknowledged that what we all assumed Brock was on steroids, he still was gonna fight him, right? He was like, yeah, he's on juice. Who cares? I'm still gonna knock his ass out. Right. So now you find out he's on it, and they're like, this is ridiculous. Right. And now I'm on Mark Hunt this. You should get paid. You should be compensated. Yes. Because I think a lot of parties involved knew Brock was taking shit. Ragdolled Mark Hunt like we've never seen him get have you ever seen Mark Hunt get picked up, slammed like that? That's crazy. A guy from taking 3.5, 5 years off. What? Crazy. It's nuts. So I think Mark Hunt does deserve some sort of compensation. But you can't cry wolf when you knew what was going. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. That's the only thing. It's like, well, you admitted you thought he was on steroids, and now you're crazy crying. Now it's for sure. Right. He should be compensated. Take all that out. The people who should be mad are the fans who got honey-dicked. It's the ultimate honey-dicking of all time. Think about it. Yeah. Because we were told Brock Lesnar was clean. He's coming back. He's the same as everyone else. He's saving the card. It's all good. All the fans assumed that you were getting a clean product, and you paid $59.99 or $64.99 HD or whatever the hell it is. We assumed that we were getting a clean product. They're the ones being honey-dicked. You know what's funny? The fans, and at what point are the fans like, dude, this is, what the fuck, man? Well, at one point, I'll tell you what they did. In baseball, you see how unforgiving they were of, say, Barry Bonds, etc. They were just unforgiving. I mean, booing him and screaming at him and all that. He can't go anywhere. But with fighting, they seem to be way more forgiving, don't they? You know why? Because they assume everyone's on it. Because they assume. Because so many guys get busted. You as a young fighter, you came into this league. And I was surrounded by it. You were surrounded. And I was going to ask you, like all my and you're very, very tight-lipped about all this, and all you guys are. And I understand that. It's guy code. But I've had candid conversations with other fighters and with you. You came in when testing wasn't as stringent, and I've heard you say that probably 95%, 90%, and I've heard this figure from other people. That's how high it was for people doing steroids. And so every time it happens, you're just so not surprised. It was that rampant. It's been that widespread. 100%. I think it's it's part. So the minute you get in, I think all sports are like that, to be honest. But in MMA, it's just so different because you'll be training next to someone who's doing the exact same amount of work than you or less, and they're performing better, or they're more jacked, or they have better cardio. And like, what is going on here, man? Wow. So hard to compete with the next guy. But it's also combat sports. So if I'm juiced to the gills and I'm ragged on you around, punching in the face, it's going to have a direct effect on your career and your health. Or how about in the third round when you start getting tired, he's not tired, your hands come down, he knocks you out. There's so many ways to get injured when you're dealing with a guy who's on drugs. Take all that out. Pro sports, track and field. It just got announced that Russia's entire government had a doping plan for all the athletes, right? All right, cool. I don't think, not that I can remember right now, I think this is the biggest black eye the UFC's ever taken. UFC 200. You mean with the biggest black guy with Brock and with John Jones? As far as the public, as far as trying to be mainstream, because you sell for $4 billion trying to be mainstream, and your biggest card of the year, which, it sold decent. It didn't sell like UFC 100. Don't get it twisted. It just didn't. Your biggest card of the year, You sign a guy from the WWE, you put up the bat signal, he fails a steroid test, which we kind of knew. You're fucking crazy. Those guys, the UFC brass is too smart not to assume that this was a
Well, they probably assumed he got clean
no
in time to pass the test, right?
No chance. No chance.
So they just knew he'd probably fail.
I think so. And then it's
Part
like,
of
well,
doing-
what
part
can
of
you
doing
do?
business.
1.2 million sales.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Who's going to be like, dude, come on, man. So it's just the ultimate honey dicking. It's just the ultimate.
John Jones was the tough one.
John Jones is a tough one.
That was a tough one.
John Jones is the tough, but again, it's like
we knew Brock might have been a one and done, whereas John Jones is supposed to be your champion coming back. You want that belt on him, the invincible John Jones.
He's the only undefeated fighter.
All that stuff.
No one can
Very
beat
important.
him. And then John fails for estrogen blockers. So then both those guys out for 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So I can't think. I mean, I'm sure some fans will be like, well, what about this one? I can't think in regulation. I can't think of a bigger black guy the UFC's taken in a long time. And again, this as far as guys failing drug tests with the Brock thing, I think so shady and fishy, so shady. So shady is the whole deal. I was suspect from day one. You can go back and listen on Rogan, listen on Fire and Kid. I was like, what are we doing here? Yeah. The guy's obviously on shit. They knew he was going to fight for a while now. They're just bringing back to save the card. It's so shady. Poor Mark Hunt, right? Mm-hmm. But I can take that. The John Jones thing, it's just.
Do you think that the UFC would be more exciting and even more popular and would have even, would it be more exciting and more profitable if the UFC had no rules and was run like Pride was back in the day?
Well, then,
and I guess what I'm really asking
would it be more exciting? Yes. Would it be more exciting?
Because guys would be faster, stronger. It wouldn't grow.
The sport would not grow.
Okay, because it'd be too brutal.
Who would sign their kid up for that?
Right.
Who would aspire to do that?
Because you have these behemoths who are just juiced to the gills.
But then, so now you're talking about WWE.
Now you're talking about the WWE.
But then they're not really fighting, so there's no repercussions. The guys look how you want your superheroes to look.
Right.
So I think these new owners need to go, all right, man. They need to sit down and go, all right.
Treat it like the Olympics.
They just got to decide what they're going to do. Mm-hmm. Again, I don't have a dog in this fight. They just need to sit down and go, all right, man. Are we headed more towards the Vince McMahon model, which is what they've currently been doing, which is kind of fizzling out because we can't bank on these stars right now? Or do we want to make this thing legit, try and compete with the NBA, NFL, and all that stuff? I think they have to figure out. It is entertainment to a certain point, but it's also competition at its finest, right? Two men fighting.
Yes.
There's nothing.
I love it.
There's nothing more pure than that.
100%.
So I think they need to figure out, and that's the issue they're going to have. Do we keep going down this WWE route, which I think makes it? I think it's such a mistake. I think it makes the sport so cheesy. It's not even funny.
Right.
It's not. Even, leave that WWE shit in the WWE. That's all fake. Let them have that world. I'm not hating on them. What they do is a tough job, but it's not a sport. It's just not a sport.
Right.
Because Brock Lesnar can go compete in SummerSlam next week, 2 weeks.
Yeah.
That's how you know it's not a real sport. What are you talking about? So with the CM Punk thing, you just nix out all those gimmicks. This isn't a circus. It's the most real sport in the world.
It is.
So their challenge is going to be, all right, man, there's so many ways to lose. We don't have any stars. John's out.
So many ways
Brock
to lose.
Lesnar's done. Ronda, we don't hear from anymore. Conor, if he loses one more, that star is fucking faded.
That's going to be interesting.
So then who do you have? And go.
That's right. That's the issue. You have a lot of tough guys. The way you know how I think as a fan, and taking nothing away, but you then have a whole bunch of real tough guys, and every time they fight, it could go either way. And I don't think that sell tickets. Yeah, that's not as exciting.
You have to have a dominating force.
Right, because what you see is two guys grinding out who are highly skilled and dedicated.
But doesn't boxing go through this? I mean, right? And don't get me wrong, UFC is going to be fine. They're going to have their day where they're coming back up. Right now, if it's lows and highs, it's a low right now as far as celebrities, big stars.
I feel like boxing is different in terms of the fact that it's very specific and like it's just punching. It's very fast. It's very it's 12 rounds.
Well,
so.
no shit. I know the difference between boxing.
No, I'm saying, but
I'm saying as far as stars. You had Floyd Mayweather, who's the biggest pay-per-view draw of all time, because he's undefeated. No one beat him.
Manny Pacquiao.
You have Canelo. You have Pacquiao. Yeah. You have Triple G, who's coming up.
Yeah. You got Andre Ward.
You have Wilder.
Yeah.
Ward doesn't fight enough, but he's a star.
Yeah.
You know, you have Chocolatito. You have these guys who are undefeated.
again, that's a big issue, is that you can, in boxing, have dominant fighters for up to 5 years.
You can in UFC too. Look at John.
You can. He's a rarity.
6 years.
I just wonder, as these guys get better at striking with these striking coaches, they have teams around them. They can find out where your weaknesses are. The gloves are small. The margin for error is so much smaller.
You know what's going to have to change?
The gloves?
Nope. The public's perception of what a star is almost. Because if a guy loses a fight in MMA, it's different than if he loses in boxing. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because if, trying to think of someone right now. For example, Jose Aldo. If Jose were to lose to whoever next, he's still an amazing fighter. You don't chalk it up as, no, he's done.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like we're quick to write guys off, which is insane.
You're right. You're right. I think that's a good point.
You know what I'm saying?
I think that's a very good point, that you know, the perception of what a star is has got, well, I don't know, man. I still think it's a challenge. I think trying to change perception is very difficult.
That's going to be insanely difficult. Do you, again, and this is where the new brass, and you know, Dana White's still on board. The Fertitas are the only ones out. This is where the new brass needs to figure it out. Do you hire a publicist and a speaking coach who helps the WWE guys to help the UFC guys?
So in other words, you're creating some drama behind the scenes.
Well, they just have to get better. So for example, when Conor gets on the mic and talks shit to Aldo, or Brock Lesnar, Frank, name some, Chael Sonnen, you go through the list of guys who are good on the mic. Well, they've rehearsed those things.
Sure,
they're also very good at. They're also personalities.
100%. That's not a bad idea.
Well, in the WWE, a lot of those guys are kind of introverted. They're not the most outgoing guys.
But they're scripted.
They're scripted.
Yeah, that's a very interesting idea.
But again, which road do you want to go down?
That's a. We know
because the Olympics, the NFL's not doing that.
I'll tell you the
NBA's
I'll tell you
not
the
doing
third
that.
option. A third option might be to do a 24/7, where you do not 24/7. What's that? Where
Countdowns. I get what you're saying.
Where you get into what their lives are. Do a quick hour, a minute and a half, whatever.
Doing, brother.
Yeah,
they've been doing that for years.
Yeah,
for years.
And it's not really.
For years.
You just want There's one.
Like
this is my kid. I'm trying to send to school.
Did you see it?
I didn't see the.
Nah.
Yeah.
That's all they do, brother.
Yeah.
It doesn't work.
Doesn't work.
You got to win.
You need conflict. You need anger and conflict and
not
all
even
that.
You just got to be a star. You know, it's tough.
Yeah.
The it factor.
It's going to be interesting to see if this $4 billion was a smart buy. It's going to be interesting who made out. We know that the Fertitta brothers sold at the right time.
Well, Fertitta's, their number one passion, don't get it twisted, besides casinos, is football.
Oh, it
so
is?
When the Oakland Raiders come to LA, they will have a huge hand in it.
Okay.
So that's their passion, is football. They want to be involved in football.
I'm excited about Ed O'Neill.
Ladies and gentlemen. There he is.
I'm excited. Ladies and gentlemen, a man who needs zero introduction, Ed O'Neill, has graced us with his presence. Ed, sorry about your career.
A legend.
Yeah, I wonder, have you stopped working in the past 30 years? And I just found out you had a cup of coffee with the Pittsburgh Steelers, which means you played football. I know you're a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but you also played football on a high level.
I did. I was with them briefly. I think it was actually 2.5 weeks.
That's longer than me.
And they did me a favor.
By letting you go, right? I say the same thing.
It was Chuck Noll's first year.
Oh,
so
wow.
I was a rookie with Noll and Joe Green and all those boys.
Wow. What year was that?
Mean Joe
69.
Green.
Rocky Blyer was in Vietnam. He came back the next year, because he was wounded in Nam. And when Noll cut me, he said, I had never played outside linebacker. I was trying to learn it. Because in college, I played middle guard, tight end. I was too small to play anything else in the pros.
And this is at Youngstown State?
In Ohio U.
Yeah.
Two different schools. So then he says, the Eagles are desperate. They want linebackers. You can get in a bus and go right down Route 80, to Philly, because we were at Latrobe, St. Vincent's College. And I said, I don't want to play anymore. I told him, I want to go home. I'm sick of this fucking game.
Which is rare.
Why were you sick of it, Ed?
I had knee injuries. And honest to God, I'll tell you the real truth of it. I was tired of hanging around football players.
That's
brother. Yes.
Really?
For the most part, that jock head and coaches. I hated coaches. I got along with Noel because I wasn't around him long enough that I, developed any kind of hatred for him.
But you guys would know better than I don't know. But I always feel like the locker room is the best place to be. It's just a bunch of laughs.
It was you're around for 20 years.
Yeah, too long.
It gets old.
Too long.
It gets old.
Yeah.
So, as a kid growing up, was your dream to be a professional football player?
Oh, I think so.
And then when you got there, it's kind of like, well,
it's a job.
I saw, when I went in as a rookie, and I know you saw this too. You go in the training room, you see all the vets come. They bring the vets that are in trouble in early.
Yeah.
The guys that are getting over injuries and shit. And all those guys had those zippers everywhere, knees, shoulders, elbows, everything, scars. And I thought, oh man, I've already got a couple, It's going to be, if I make it, it's going to be me.
And then acting, did you ever think, what got you in, you're this big athlete, and you say, I want to be an actor?
I was in Catholic high school and grade school, and the nuns got me in plays. They make you, they draft you.
Yeah. Draft you.
And I kind of liked it, although I couldn't admit it because where I grew up, all my friends would say.
Which was where?
They didn't like actors,
You grew up where?
Youngstown, Ohio.
Right.
So it was kind of effeminate, to be an actor. And I actually liked it, but I couldn't admit it. So then when I was cut by the Steelers, my roommate at OU was a guy named Sammy Angot, whose dad was lightweight champ of the world in boxing, Hall of Fame.
Dang.
And Sammy pitched for the Pirates, short relief, and we were roommates in Fort Lauderdale. And then neither one of us had a clue, and it was like, I'm going to be an actor. He said, "Get the fuck, are you nuts?"
And then so
I went back
how do you?
home.
Because I think a lot of guys are listening. They're the same way. Like, I'm lost. I want to do this. How do you even get started in the right direction?
I haven't actually thought about this in probably 40 years. I was the kind of kid that went to movies a lot when I was a kid because we had a theater right up the street. It was like a nickel or something then. The Belmont Theater. And I used to go and watch movies like The Magnificent Seven. I might watch 10 times.
Yeah.
I'd sit through it over and over. Gunfight at the OK Corral, 20 times. Shane, 30 times.
Brendan's never heard of these movies, but keep going.
These are classic Westerns.
Yes,
anyway, I used to tell all the guys in the neighborhood, I'd tell them the movie because I knew all the lines.
Right.
And these guys would say, I went and saw it. It's not as good as the one you told me.
You're adding your...
Yeah.
I did the same thing with my father to get his attention.
Because,
you're in the... I would redo the movies. I'd redo the movies.
Same thing.
Okay. So then you're at the movies, you're retelling the story, but better than that actual movie.
Well, that's what they said. Now, years later, I came home, cut, Lauderdale, washed out there. I thought, oh, man. I'm in Youngstown, a steel town. And the mills are going south, and I'm thinking, what am I going to do? I've got no skills whatsoever, So I saw an ad for the Youngstown Playhouse for a play called The Rainmaker, which was a movie.
I know it.
And I had seen the movie. Mm-hmm. I saw it because it was Burt Lancaster. So I thought, there's broads, there's girls, I'll go out there.
Makes sense.
I'll be an actor.
Damn right you will.
So I go out and I auditioned, and I remember vaguely that I was imitating Burt Lancaster, and it was horrible. If they had ever filmed this thing,
who was an ex-athlete himself, an acrobat.
He was a great athlete.
And a gay man, by the way.
I think he went both ways, for sure.
Yes.
So anyway, I got nothing. And then a few months later, they're illegally, they have to advertise.
Right.
But they have an acting company already. In other words, they pick their season around who they have. If you're in their company, you're going to play...
Yeah.
Streetcar, you're going to play.
Yeah.
And so you go into audition, it's already cast. I learned that much later when I was in that position.
Yeah.
So I went in for Cuckoo's Nest because, again, I read the book.
So you went in for the play One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Wow. Okay.
And did just as badly. And then one of the directors there called me and said, you're awful, but the thing is, we're doing Antigone, that Greek classic tragedy, and we're doing it in the little stage. They had 2 stages. They had the little stage.
18B team.
Yeah. And the Youngstown Playhouse was quite nice.
Oh, yeah.
And I said, the little stage is fine, And they said, well, we have this role. I'm going to offer you this role. And it was literally a spear.
You were holding a spear.
Guard.
Offer you this role.
I had 2 lines. And I liked it, though. I had fun. And then I went to the university, and I conned my way into the
theater department.
Artistic director of the Dr. Bill Hull-Supple. Yes.
That guy.
Had a head like this.
Yes.
Cheshire Cat. And I went in, And I said, you know, I'm an actor from the Youngstown Playhouse. Well,
Good job. I'm a spear holder from the Youngstown.
How I ever got to where I've gotten is and I don't even believe in miracles, a miracle.
Well, but you know what? I got to say, the first time I ever saw you, I think, was Miami Vice.
Yeah, Don Johnson.
And you played this bad guy.
Artie Rollins.
And at the end, you look at Tubbs and you go, you're a cop? Like, you can't believe it. I remember your line.
Yeah.
And
you know what I did, by the way, in that show? It's the only time it ever happened on the show.
And can you get a little closer to the mic?
Yeah, sorry. Because it was the first episode after the pilot. And
how about that?
Heart of Darkness.
Yes, sir.
Miami Vice.
And he was
So I play a guy
bad.
who goes undercover in a pornography trade, and I go crazy. So, like Heart of Darkness.
Yeah.
Same thing. And I was based on that.
Yeah.
So Don and Tubbs, I forget his actual name.
Yeah, me too.
I go in the parking lot. I beat a guy up in the parking lot over some money, and I'm hurting the guy. And they're going, this guy's supposed to be a good guy, but this isn't good.
Right.
So they stop me from the beating, and in the scene I turn on them. I turn on Johnson, and I say, don't you ever fucking touch me, And it's like it was violent.
Yeah.
So we do the take, and the guy was John Moxey. He's an English director. Wonderful. Moving on. And Johnson said, could I have a word with you, please? I see him walk away with Moxey. He comes back and he said, Don wants to do it again, but you can't be so scary.
Don't be so big.
He's the star of the show. I said, I don't give a fuck what he is. I'm just down here for one show. That's a good take. I'm done.
Yeah.
Wow. Is that what you said?
Yeah. And they kept it.
Oh.
Dang.
And of course, that's the only time
He didn't want to
happened in the series.
He didn't want to get alphaed.
Exactly.
He did not
the
want to
star
get
of the
alphaed.
show.
Oh, and then you
Egos.
know what he said? You know what they said? Tubbs and I was right out the street.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This time, and Tubbs said, "Yeah, man, because there was a little argument because we wouldn't take that in real life." I said, "You'd take it." Fucking take it and you'd like it. These were two little guys.
Yeah, two little guys.
Oh, you're going to take it?
You would have cleaned the floor with
I
them.
actually told him this.
Oh, you're going to take it.
Typical macho
Take it
actors.
and you'd like it.
So
Dude.
at what point did you realize you can do this for a living? Is it after doing shows like, Miami Vice?
Because that was a big show to get.
I was living in New York at the time, and I had done a play at the Playwrights Horizons, and then the casting director brought me in for Miami Vice, which was a new show. Me and
You guys got to know, just
Bruce
very
Willis.
quickly, like Playwrights Horizons, where they did a lot of new plays.
Yes.
It was a real artistic hubbub. I
Yes,
did several
that's
plays.
right,
Yeah, I
that's
love
right.
it.
And I did a number of plays with them. And then Bruce was the daytime bartender at Cafe Central. I used to drink over there with he was like Jersey kid.
Yep.
I can't get arrested.
Yep.
So I get the part from Bruce. And so, and naturally he goes, fuck, So I go do the part. I come back to New York. I said, where's Bruce? Because I went in to get a drink. He said, he's out in L.A. They got him in a hotel out there. He's on hold.
Let me guess. For a little show called Moonlighting.
Exactly.
Damn.
And they kept him 2 weeks in the room on Avenue of the Stars.
Yep.
Because she didn't want him.
Sybil Shepherd.
Really? Shepherd didn't want him.
Who?
Said, I never heard of this guy. He's a
I've heard
bartender.
stories about. Yeah.
They hated each other. So, but they couldn't find a guy that was better than Bruce. And that was perfect in the role. And
Perfect in
then
the
Bruce
role.
went,
That was it. He was great.
And I kept slugging along.
You had this thing. I remember Married with Children. It was like, I don't even know how to explain it as an actor. It was as though you were in on the joke somehow. The character was just, you were doing things you can't get away with. Right. I don't even know how to explain what I mean. You were doing shit.
It evolved to that.
It was
and
just
it never
great.
got old.
It never got old.
It was my brother's. We never missed one.
It
was
never
a
got
funny
old.
show. The writers were funny.
Yeah.
Did you know how big of a deal it was going to be when you landed it?
It was such a...
I was playing handball at the Hollywood Y. I was out here for something. And I get a call from my agent.
By the way, I'm sorry to interrupt you. That's what I mean. When you were doing that in show, it was as though this guy's pulling it off and he plays handball. What's the handball player doing? Why is he? But you believe.
Played handball.
But I believed everything you did.
What were you saying?
And you were a great actor. It wasn't like you were the stylized actor. You were a blue collar guy.
He's a guy's guy.
And I believe, like a blue collar guy actually wandered on set and wasn't even acting. He was just fucking saying lines. That's what I mean.
Well, when I went in to meet it was Michael Moye, Ron Levitt. Michael's a black guy from North Carolina, and Ron was Jewish from Brooklyn. They were a comedy team. They look like gas station attendants. I swear to God. Bad teeth, and they're eating chocolate bars and throwing darts. And so I brought my bag in because I had been playing handball. Well, handball players have 20 gloves hanging off the bag.
I didn't know
all
that.
Sweated through. You got to keep changing them or the ball will slide on the wall.
Sure.
So, what is that? They didn't even know what it was. Levitt knew because he was from Brooklyn. But I told him, and then they said, would you mind reading with us or read a scene? And I said, yeah, I'll read. And it reminded me of one of my uncles, the character Bundy, who was actually a judge, but he was the funniest guy you ever knew. And he had, but see, apparently, from what I understood later, most of the actors, and they saw everybody, thought of it like Gleason in The Honeymooners,
right?
Yelling and mad and angry. And when I read it, because of this uncle I had, I thought everything goes wrong and he expects it.
Like it's his life.
It's his life.
It's always down the dump.
What a great choice.
Exactly.
What a great choice.
It wasn't even a choice. It just. So when I read it, it was like, home from work, and she'd say, Al, I ran over the dog today. It's dead. The driveway. Backed over it. What's for dinner? So it would be like, I don't give a shit now. That dog's dead.
What? Yeah.
What do we eat?
Of course it's dead. Yeah.
So it was sort of, that's how it went. And I'll tell you what happened right down to the wire. They're casting it. Barry Diller, who was running Fox for Murdoch, saw the last, because they mix and match everybody. And I'm with Katie Seagal finally. So afterwards, now we're shooting in 1 week. They're shooting in 1 week. I don't have it yet.
Yeah.
Diller goes to Levitt Moy and he says, you got the girl. You can do a fuck of a lot better for the guy.
He said that about you.
By me.
Yeah.
And Levitt said, we kind of like him, and we're at the end. We're at the end.
Wow.
He goes, it's your funeral.
Dang.
And that's what Barry Diller said.
That's what Diller said.
Wow.
It's your funeral.
By the way, very few people that as powerful at that time probably. So he could have.
Oh, he definitely could.
He could have done whatever he wanted.
I think he felt like,
get these
we've
guys.
seen everybody. And
let's see how it works out.
Yeah. And so much, much later, I was doing a movie called Dutch, and he was involved, Diller. And Diller was not the warmest guy you ever met in your life. I had a head like a rattlesnake.
What do you mean?
Over to me
what do you mean he had a head like a rattlesnake?
His head, it was like a rattlesnake. He came over to me, and he said,
Not good.
He said, I saw Dutch. I liked it. Pretty good. I was wrong about you.
Oh, that's cool.
It's so good.
That's okay, Barry.
Yeah.
I've been wrong about a lot of things.
Yeah. I have one time, Todd Phillips, who is the director of The Hangover, there was a Mini Cooper ad, and it was a huge campaign, and it was going to pay a lot of money. And I go in, and I look around, and I see it's just a bunch of name actors and good comics.
It doesn't pay to look around.
It doesn't pay to look around, as you know. And I go, well, I'm just another dude. I might be a funny guy, but I know when I'm just another dude, and I'm just another dude. Well, it just so happens that Todd Phillips likes me. He comes out of the room, and I go to hug him, and he doesn't even hug me. He just goes, hey, come over here. And what he goes, listen, everybody else is a pussy. I don't like anybody else. You're the guy. I don't give a shit if you go in there and take a shit. You're the guy, just so you know. And he goes back in. Well, I had to do a kung fu fight. I had to do all this stuff for the Mini Cooper. Yes.
Is it still on YouTube?
This was the first time. Yeah, Mini Cooper we did 7 episodes. So I made a fortune.
Sick.
I made a fortune.
This was a pilot?
This was a Mini Cooper campaign.
On YouTube, right? On TV?
On TV.
A commercial.
It was a commercial.
Mini
It was a commercial.
Yeah.
So they got to hire Todd Phillips. This is before The Hangover, but after Old School and School for Scoundrels and all that. So I get in there, and I'm doing a gig. I'm doing stand-up in San Jose at the Improv. I do my audition. They hate me. Not dislike me. They hate me. I go up to do my stand-up. Todd says, listen, they don't like you. You got to come back. I go, okay.
You told me.
You know what happened? I thought it was a shoe-in.
You told me so.
So I just messed around.
Yeah,
This is Hollywood and you're lying?
Right? Exactly. I take a plane. I fly back. I go in. I do it again. I go back to do the gig. This is in the day. I got to get back to my day. I got to do the gig at the Improv. I go to the next day. Listen, they don't like you. It's not going to happen. Todd calls me again. He goes, yeah, they hate you. Come back. Just trust me. Just come back. This time I'm like, what the fuck am I? They got to pay him. I go, yeah, we'll pay you the $200, whatever. Don't be a baby. Just come back. This is how he talks. I come back. I do it again. I go back. 2 days go by. I'm still wrong. Todd goes, listen, man, they give me a hard time. Come to the office. I come to the office. Now I'm in the office, and I can see them in the room, in the mirrored room. They're not even, in the windowed room. They're not even making, they're not even trying to be polite. I see the guy, the producer, throwing his hands up and walking in a circle, like this fucking guy. So Todd says, look, they want a guy with long hair and a mustache, and you don't have the hair. The next thing I know, he goes, just wait, don't go anywhere. This is Todd Phillips, the best. A woman comes in with a wig, and they put a fake mustache on me. He goes, come here.
Yeah.
He throws the wig on me.
Boom.
It's a big curly wig. They put a mustache on me. He puts me into the room, and he goes, there, you guys happy? He can do the job. Trust me. You guys happy? And you just see the guy go.
They just give up.
I go back out. He comes walking in. He goes, the producer comes in and goes, congratulations, you got the job. And just walks out. He's so pissed.
You killed it.
Dude, I
They're
killed
great
it.
if you haven't seen them.
The first hour, they come up and said, we were wrong. You're great.
That's great.
I mean, sometimes you got to cram it down.
But Ed, how many times were you told, like, how many auditions did you go on where you told no? No, that's what's amazing to me with actors, like the ones you see on TV or on the big screens. My small experience with auditions, which I have a funny story, I went on one last week, but my small experience with auditions, it's just no, constant rejection.
100, just 200, 300 no's.
Like how many times were you said no?
I lived in New York. I lived in New York for 10 years, so you're on the street. You're going one audition to another, just walking around all day. So you audition so much, you wouldn't take it personally after a while. It would just be.
You get thick skin.
I don't know if this happened to you.
You have to.
Because you almost expect it.
Yeah.
Because in sports, like I'm sure, granted you didn't want to play anymore, but even college or high school, if you got cut from a team, it's a little different because it's more personal.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Because in acting, I feel like if I go on this audition, all right, I'm just not your guy. You don't like me.
You remind them of the uncle they don't like.
Yeah,
or,
whatever reason. Maybe my size. But in football or fighting, if I get cut from a team, you're just not good enough.
It gets pretty personal, though, when it comes down to you and two other guys, and you're hoping for it, and you haven't worked in 4 months. But tell me about this. When I remember auditioning in New York, which I did for years, 7, 8 years, and you would go from audition to audition, and because New York, especially back then, in the heat and the smog, and you'd get a brown layer of just mung on your neck and your face. Remember that? You'd be in the elevator, and you just wipe it off, and you'd go in, and once in a while, you get the job.
I used to take naps on benches.
Yeah.
Because I was I was walking everywhere. I had the bag.
Yeah.
I still carry the bag.
Yeah.
Where is it?
You walk
in with it.
You walk everywhere.
I will carry a bag.
You walk everywhere.
And I'd go up by the, museum cafe or something, the Natural History Museum.
Dude, I remember
those benches. I'd take a nap.
Wow.
I've been reading this Steve Martin book on it's called Born Standing, and he talks about how he was just grinding it out, and they started, some rooms no one would show up, but he'd still do the act. And then all of a sudden he started gaining popularity, and he almost hated it. Because he said for the first time he's walking down the street and people would recognize him, and he's always kind of been an introverted guy, but people would come up and almost pretend like they knew him, and he'd be on the defense. Was there a point when, especially with
teeth in Disneyland?
Yeah.
Did he?
Yeah, started his job at Disneyland, working on the magic shop, all that stuff.
Disneyland, doing the banjo at Disneyland, the whole thing. Yeah,
for years.
Yeah,
6 years. At
what?
Least 6 or 8 years.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, that's fascinating.
You know who I used to have coffee with a lot was, not a lot, but towards the end was Carlin.
Really?
George
Carlin?
I met him, and then he came. He did a show that followed our show when I was doing Married, and then I did a couple spots for him, and then we'd have coffee, and oh my God.
I bought him breakfast once, and I left before he knew, but he looked old. He was eating at Cora's Cafe. And I just said to the waiter, I go, I'm buying that guy's. Yeah, I said, I'm buying that guy breakfast. I left before. Yeah, I mean, he's a legend.
And was there a time when you were, especially in LA, when you're out in public, you realized how big of a deal Married with Children was? when you started getting recognized? Was it hard for you to deal with that?
It was slow, though. It was sort of slow. It was because of, Fox at that time, a lot of towns didn't even get it. It was like, I would go back to Youngstown, for example. They didn't get the show there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And they'd see me like in a beer commercial, and they thought I was, successful for a Pabst Blue Ribbon commercial.
Well, now though, with Modern Family, I remember auditioning for that show, and I said to both those guys, to Chris and to
Steve,
I said to those guys, this thing's going to be a hit. Well done, guys. Once again, you've done it. And it's been what a run and what a great show.
Yeah, we're starting our 8th year.
Jesus. And this for you has been
Modern Married was 11.
God.
11. And you said this is season what for you on Modern?
8.
8?
Starting 8.
Yeah.
And Dory.
And Dory.
I'm in Dory.
Are you flying privately yet, Ed? Let's be honest.
Ed, I need a jet.
Ed, did someone drive you here? Let's get down to brass tacks. And what car did you drive? I want to know right now. I want to know how you live your life. How does the super rich live?
I got a call. My manager, Mark Gervitz. He said they want you to do an octopus. I said, for what? Pixar sequel, Finding Nemo. I said, octopus. You got a script? No script. You got a description of what the guy? Nothing. So why would I do that? Pixar.
You got it because of money.
Dory's a big deal.
Well,
you do
it was a cameo. I went in. I'm bitching. I got to drive to Burbank for a fucking cameo.
He's bitching.
This is why I love you.
The octopus is a big deal.
This is what I love about you. This is what I mean. This is why you're so accessible, because you're that guy who's still.
I got to drive to Burbank to do the voiceover.
You still don't know that you've made it. I actually believe that. You still don't know that you've made it.
I'll tell you a funny story. That's true. I'll tell you a funny story. I did a show with Bas Rutten, and that show they had. MMA
Live.
Yeah,
Live. Inside MMA.
Inside MMA.
Yes,
I love that guy.
So I'm sitting there, and we're back in the green room. This is not on the air, thank God. And Bas is talking about punching, and the guy said he don't know how to punch. It's something like that. And I said, yeah, I agree. The punching's sort of a lost art, but that goes way back. I'm going my history of things. He said, well, Bas, if you ever see his hands, he's got this knuckle here. It's like this. Mm-hmm. He said, I crack guys right here. Knocked a lot of guys out. I said, it's a bad place to hit a guy.
You said that to Bas?
Yeah.
What Bas say?
What? I said, you never land with this knuckle. You break your wrist. What? I said, no. Where do you aim when you throw a punch? Where do you aim when you throw a punch?
Where do I aim?
Where do you aim the knuckles? If you want to hit a guy in the jaw?
I mean, I'm turning it over so these are landing. Usually I'm trying to displace
the best
pressure.
Place to hit a guy is this knuckle. So you want to.
You're saying the third one in.
You want this. You want a 3-knuckle landing. Why do I say that? Because that's the power line. If you want to follow your weight in.
Correct.
The weight, boom, you hit him like this. Now you can turn it over.
Yeah.
If you throw a hook, for example, you're going to turn that hook over. But you're going to land from here down. If you land here, you'll break your wrist. Mm. If you swing way out like the guy who knocked out Dos Anjos, your weight's coming this way, right?
Right.
The arm's out here. It's an arm punch.
Sure.
And by the time you turn it over,
no power.
You're landing like this. None of those guys, Dempsey, Johnson, Lewis, none of the great punchers, Marciano.
Yeah.
None of them punch with their hands like that. That's why they had very few hand injuries.
True. What'd Bas say about that, though?
Didn't agree.
Yeah. Didn't agree?
I said, well.
Did you say, I'm on Modern Family?
I said, I didn't make this up.
Do you have any boxing experience?
Yeah, a little. In Youngstown. Everybody boxed in Youngstown. Ray Mancini's a good friend. Boom Boom.
I love Boom Boom. Boom Boom, and I gave myself a concussion rolling in front of Boom Boom. He was watching me roll with this giant French guy down at Street Sports.
Oh, yeah,
with Renato Magno.
Renato.
Yep. And I was rolling with this guy, Pasquale, and I think that's his name. And it was right after 9/11, and I was fighting for America, and I was not going to give up. And he was way bigger. And I'm telling you, we rolled for 40 minutes. And I gave myself a concussion, and all I remember.
Just impressed Boom Boom.
Well, Boom Boom watched the whole thing. I was not going to give up or tap in front of Boom Boom, and he went, "Bri, you're my hero. You're my hero, Bri. You're my hero." And that's all. And I'll never forget it. And I did my job.
That sounds like great too.
And then
have you seen his documentary?
Yeah, I'm in it.
That's right. I was there at the opening. Yeah.
Because we're from the same town.
That's right. It's amazing, man.
I knew his dad, his mom, his sister.
What a crazy story.
Oh, his brother got killed.
Yeah, insane story.
His brother got killed? I didn't know.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, yeah. You got to see it, It's insane.
Really?
Yeah.
What a life. He would always tell great stories about, my father always said, everybody's a tough guy until they're not. Until they're not.
Legend. Lives in Santa Monica.
No, he moved now. He's back in Youngstown.
Oh, is he really?
Oh, yeah.
He's back in Youngstown.
Went back to the old roots.
How's he doing?
He's doing okay, actually. You know, he should be in Youngstown. Youngstown loves him.
Yeah.
You know,
hero there,
he's comfortable there. Yeah.
I got a question for you. How in the world, we have a mutual friend with Henner, Hiran, and Rorion. How in the world did you and Rorion get together? Where did you meet Rorion? And so Rorion originated with the UFC, right? Jiu-Jitsu, Henner and Hiran's dad. So
well, that was when I was over at Sunset Gower. John Milius had an office over there. Now, do you know John Milius?
John Milius directed Big Wednesday.
Big Wednesday.
And a great
he wrote
director.
Apocalypse Now.
Yeah, amazing.
Wow. He wrote Wind and the Lion.
Big deal.
Sean Connery.
Oh, a legend. John Milius is one of the greats.
Okay.
And so anyway, John is quite a character too, if you know him.
Is he?
Yeah. And anyway, he was taking jiu-jitsu when they were on Carson in Torrance.
Big burly guy.
Big heavy guy. And his son Ethan was a purple belt at that time. Oh, you got to meet these guys. And this was just after Royce, I think, won the UFC. I don't know which one.
So it's like 93, 94?
Yeah. So you got to come meet him. I said, John, is that the guys? They wear pajamas and they you know, it's like a kung fu. I didn't know anything about martial arts. Nothing. I knew about boxing.
Yeah.
I knew about a little bit about wrestling, even though I wasn't a wrestler. But I said, it's in Torrance. I don't go to Torrance. I go to New York City more than I go to Torrance.
Yeah.
Anyway, he badgered me for 2 years. So I said, all right, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll meet you there. Give me the address. No, I'll pick you up. I said, no, I'll meet you there. You got a class there? Tell me when. So I drive down it. You know, I can't find it. Torrance.
How old are you at the time?
Well, I just turned 70.
You did.
This
I was 42.
94,
You look good.
I was 42.
You look damn good.
So I go down there, and I've been playing handball, 3-ball handball. That's all I did, you know. And so I go in, and John's rolling around with Rorion. So I'm looking, and I'm thinking, the place is clean, you know, it's very clean. I don't know what they're doing. So then they finish, they come out, and I'm introduced to Rorion. And I said, oh, it's nice. It's clean, man. The place is clean. And hear a lot about you guys.
The place is clean.
I'm being, you know, I don't know anything about them, really.
Sure.
I never heard of Hickson.
Yeah.
None of those guys.
Yeah.
So I said, look, okay, I got to go because, you know, it's rush hour traffic. I want to get back. I'm way over here in Venice. No, you have to have one free class. 15 minutes, Ed, come on, for free. So they get me a gi, I come out. I go in the little room, you know, Milius is grinning, you know. So, okay, I want you to lay on your back. I'm going to sit on top of you. So he sits on top of me. I don't feel any weight. You know, it's all on the knees, you know.
Yeah.
So I'm going. Now, I'm at the time maybe 230, 225. You know, Horion's 170, 175.
Light, thin.
Yeah, thin. He said, okay, this is what we do. It's very simple. If your life depends on it, can you get me off on top of you? Now, he's sitting straight up in the air, you know. If my life depends on it, yeah, I could probably get you off. I don't know.
Yeah, because you play football.
After that, you know, but I could probably buck, I'm thinking.
Yeah, I'll buck you off.
You know, I'm just going to explode.
I'll buck you. I'll do the American buck.
You know, and how long will that could take me? 5 seconds.
I know.
Right? So he says, that's it. That's the test. Just go crazy, get me off. If your life depends, like, you know, you're in your house, you come out, the bad guy in the hallway trip you, he gets on top of you. I'm on top of you. Your children down the hall.
I love it.
What do you do?
Bringing the kids in?
I said, when do you? He said, whenever you want, go. So naturally, you know, he slips the hooks in, you know.
Grapevines your legs.
And I go nuts, and nothing happens. And I'm keep bucking, and I'm in 12 seconds. I'm exhausted.
Yeah.
He goes, okay, breathe, relax, breathe. I'm going, God damn. So he says, okay, how do you feel? I said, I'm okay. He said, okay, I want you to get on top of me. So I'm all set to say no. Whatever it is, no.
Right.
He said, can you hold me down for 4 seconds?
4 seconds.
4 seconds. I go, 4 seconds.
This is a good sales pitch.
4 seconds I can do.
This is what they do, yeah.
This is a great
I'm
sales
230
pitch.
pounds.
Yeah.
I can hold you down. That's it. That's the end of everything. You go home after this. So I get close. Come on, Ed. I grab him. He goes, I'm Ed, like a man. Well, he's setting me up. Because now I'm like a little ball on top of him, Go. Boom. He's on top.
Sweep.
I said, no, he trapped. And,
Trap and roll.
So I said, how did you do this? He said, that's what we do. I said, okay, I got to learn this.
Got to learn it.
He said, Ed, come on, it's okay. I just want to show you this, and you don't have to feel the pressure of coming down here. I know it's a long drive. When can I come?
Yeah. Change your life.
When?
Yep.
He said, tomorrow. I said, what time?
Men,
They
isn't
do
it
that
funny?
they do that to everyone to piggyback on this, B. But because I was 4 or 5 years in the UFC, and I've done jiu-jitsu with some of the best in the world. Then I go in to meet with Henner and Hiron because Henner was at a gym I was training at in Orange County. He just came in there to roll the guys, and my buddy, he knows I love jiu-jitsu. He goes, "You got to roll this guy Hiron." I've heard of him, just in the circles.
Amazing.
We roll, and I'm just like, what the hell's going on here? You thought you were good.
No.
So then
It's a whole
I
other
go,
deal.
I have to work with you. I just moved to LA. I'm like, I have to work with you. He's like, all right, man. Everyone tells him that. He goes, come to the gym tomorrow, 6 a.m. Cool.
Don't say that to Brendan
See you
Schaub.
at 6 a.m.
Don't say that to
So I
Brendan
came
Schaub.
at 6 a.m. He did the same
Same
thing.
thing.
But remember, at the time, I'm a brown belt.
You're already
brown belt,
and
I'm
beating up some good guys.
And I'm ranked in the
Yeah.
world.
Yeah, I was a super
And
white
he
belt.
what?
To them, it doesn't make any difference.
Doesn't matter. He goes, get me off you. I'm like, Hiron, I'm gonna buck you to the
But this is how they sell their fish.
to
as they
Mars.
say.
Oh no.
No.
Same
Same
experience.
thing, right?
Same. And then you're at the famous Torrance Academy, and it was the first sign in my life that I made the right decision to move from Denver to LA when I was sitting on those empty mats and Henner and Hiron were there to train with me.
I watched Henner take you and some very well-known fighters and pretty much do whatever he wanted to.
I brought Brian into the room as a private room with Henner, a lot of well-known UFC fighters.
Well-known.
And because I'm trying to tell Brian, those guys are from a different planet when it comes to jiu-jitsu.
It is true.
But
I
to
get paid
watch
to
Henner,
fight guys
to watch Henner do it,
They've been doing it since they've been in diapers. So anything I'm going to do,
Well, you saw that Gaval couldn't do shit with Henner.
nothing.
Or Hiro.
well, because
Nothing.
they've been doing it so long that they're ahead of you. They can feel what you're going to do. They're chunking information, right?
I'll tell you a great story about the old. Now I was already like a purple belt at least. I used to train with the old man when he would come in from Brazil.
Okay.
Privates,
Helio.
Helio. And
Yeah.
then Hoyler would be there to translate, even though I understood a little Portuguese because I was
Sure.
around him so long. But now I thought I was, not good, but I was like almost a brown belt
How often were you training?
once or twice a week.
Okay.
That was it. So, but with Rorion.
Yeah.
So I get on the old man, and I'm thinking the old man's 140 pounds. If he's that, and he's 90, or he's 80
Old,
this time,
yeah.
he was 88. 88.
Yeah.
I'd just say I get cross-side him. I get cross-side him. And he felt like he was dead. There was nothing.
Flesh and bones.
Nothing. It's like
Yeah.
this. So I get cross-eyed, and suddenly I'd feel like my right arm would be like, wait a minute, what's he doing here? I can't move it. He'd trap it, he'd like put his hand around and then he would hook it, and he would pull his elbow in tight.
Yeah.
And now you can't get it out. You're like, it's like the tar baby and Uncle
Yeah, man.
Remus. You're stuck. Or he'd put his hand, like if your arm was over here, he'd put it over it and he'd grab here.
They're amazing.
And then he'd wedge this behind your hip, and then he'd start to walk away from you. And now you can't follow him because he's got this arm trapped, and now he's pushing here.
Mm.
And then you would try to, and then he would roll you. He would go, oh.
Oh.
You just, oh shit, you'd be gone, And I'd think, how can he do this to me? He's 90 years old. But here's the lesson from Elio. One time I was in his guard, and he put his hand in my collar. And, I went to block his arm, the other arm, and he went for a choke. He had great chokes.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm fighting him, God damn, I'm pushing. He goes, stop. Forza. Oh, this is, you use too much strength. I said, I know, but he's got the goddamn foot on my hip. He's going for the choke. How can I block the attack without any strength? And so Leo says, you don't block the attack. You block the preparation for the attack.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
So that
There you go.
if you put this hand in my collar,
Yeah.
as this going in, I already put this hand
Yeah.
on your
That's a great life lesson right there.
Yeah, and he did that in everything. Everything he did, But how do you get that good? That takes a long time.
Well,
There's
you've got to. It's called pattern recognition.
Yeah.
You've got to have seen that, and that's what I love about getting good at anything. The reason great chess players can beat you isn't because they think 5 moves ahead. They used to think that. It's because they've been there 1,000 times. They've played. They've seen that board 1,000 times. They know what you're going to do, so they can anticipate.
I had a choke that I liked that I learned from Rorion. So if I'm mounted. You've seen this. I'd put the hand on the collar, and then I'd mess around, I'd fake. And as I'm faking, I'm turning this one over.
Ooh.
So now I've got this instead of this.
Mm-hmm.
So as I'm faking,
sleight of hand.
Slap your ear, I might just, but this is over now. And then I drag it back, and I grab your gi lapel, and I pull it, and I drop it. And I get so many guys, because they don't feel it turning.
Oh,
Yeah.
And now it's the paper cutter,
Yeah.
So I'm rolling with the old man, and I'm thinking, I'm going to get this because
it's my go-to move.
I got it down, and I'm doing all this thing, and he's just laying there,
Not a care in the world.
Not a care in the
no
world.
pressure.
Have one eye closed.
Yeah, I don't.
So now
it's almost insulting.
Yeah.
That's how they do it.
So
It's
now
like
so I turn it over, I'm slick. I got it. I'm doing this, that, and then I go to grab it, the thing, and as I grab it, he just put his.
You
hand
feel a gentle fatherly hand.
and I looked up.
Close. No, my son. Not today, my son.
And then you find out, I could be training all day with Henry and Huron, and then at night all they're eating is acai. It's just
Frank Grillo used to train.
I can't do.
Me neither.
Frank Grillo used to train with Rickson Gracie a lot, and he would say, and Rickson would count. Rickson would tell you what he was going to do. This is Frank was a purple belt training all the time. He obsesses. He was like that. The way he is with boxing, he was out.
Rickson.
It's Rickson, and he would just say, he would count, and he'd say, in 10 seconds I'm going to take your neck. 10 seconds I'm going to take your arm. And he'd be like, you're not going to take my arm. 1, 2, 3.
He was like the Michael Jordan.
Yeah. See, I feel like.
Did you ever roll with him? Any of you guys?
I obviously I've trained with Crone. I've never rolled the takes.
Right.
Crone is the same thing, but just a little bit.
Yeah, amazing.
Smaller.
Amazing. Pound for pound, best I've ever seen.
Like a little gorilla.
Yes. Oh, that's complete legend.
And when he gets on side mount,
oh my God,
it's like he weighs 800
It's a gorilla.
pounds.
It's a gorilla.
Yeah.
So that's what they do to you. Like when they get cross-side you, when they really want to put the wood to you, they make it. Here's the other thing: they make it look like it's an accident, like they're not doing it on purpose. They are doing it on purpose.
It's wearing you out too.
Yeah, you'll see them. They'll spread their legs. They're cross-side. They'll go slowly on their toes, and then they have this right over under.
Yep.
And they'll put chest to chest, and they get comfortable down. Now they're all the weight is forward.
And you can't breathe.
Slowly getting
slow
worse and worse.
Yeah.
It's like, oh shit. And now you can't breathe.
You get claustrophobic.
And don't you feel like a lot of guys in Hollywood, because there's a lot of this tough guy persona, I just think a lot of them could benefit from either boxing or doing jiu-jitsu? Because I think it humbles you. Because you being a black belt, there's a lot of humbleness that comes with that.
Oh, yeah.
So a lot of guys, they might play this badass in some action-packed movie, for whatever reason,
they believe it.
Then I see him walking down the street, I'm like, hey man, that's a character.
That's a character, bro.
What are you doing?
Yeah.
You haven't earned those stripes.
Right.
You see a lot
We
of
could
that.
name them, quite a few of them.
Yes. There's
I read an article with Russell Crowe in GQ, and I have to say, I don't know what he's like as a person. I don't want to be unfair, but boy, did it sound like he's the alpha male, he's the alpha wolf, and the people around him are pretty afraid of him, and he's got some stories, and he's a tough guy according to that article. And I just thought to myself, dude,
It's in GQ though.
Yeah, you need to get into a ring.
I don't believe it.
It was a girl writing about him, and he was,
there you go.
There's a lot of stories.
But you can sense that certain actors have
certain
this
guys, I'm like,
bullying,
man, it would
tough
help
guy.
you out.
Yeah.
It'd really go a long way.
depends on
You
what
don't get to be a
pond-
black belt without getting tapped 1,000 times either,
Yeah.
right?
It depends on what pond you're swimming in.
Yeah.
Correct.
Of course.
It's like one time Hickson said, they said, would you fight a great white shark? You'd like fight it. He said, of course I fight him. First I drained the pool.
That's a great way to look at it. I like that I said, and you just said you're 70, and I said you're a black belt in jiu-jitsu, and we were talking before we started rolling. You said, I just don't want to get beat up.
Of course.
It never leaves you, does it?
No, because
it never leaves you.
Like the old man used to say, you don't have to win, just don't lose.
Yeah.
And of course, we love UFC. I watch it all the time. I have my favorite fighters and this and that. But it's not smart fighting. It's not smart fighting.
It's entertainment.
It's all entertainment. You know better than anybody. It's you're channeled into taking risks you shouldn't take out there.
Well, because you're trying to earn that bonus.
So in other words,
the bonus.
In other words, you're standing up and banging when you should be wrestling.
Look, even the announcing. Think about it. When you get into a fight, if it's a real fight, the thing you don't want to be is angry, aggressive in your mind, tense, emotional.
Yeah.
You want to be the opposite of emotional.
Correct.
You want to be cold, calculated, calm.
Correct.
As you can be.
Correct.
It's not easy to be that way, but that's what you strive for. And now, they're pumping everybody up. The fighters you see, they can't help it. They're pretty soon, they're ready to go out there and they just exchange.
You're right.
And
boxing's not like that.
No.
That's a great point. I was just watching Wilder versus Areola this past weekend on Fox. It's so weird you bring this up because I was like, it's just a different vibe. Because in boxing, there's 12 rounds. Those first couple rounds, they fill each other up. But there's not this intensity.
No, but think about this.
Aggro testosterone.
Think about that fight you just mentioned.
Yeah.
That heavyweight.
Yeah.
Can't fight for shit.
Areola?
No.
Or Wilder?
Can't fight for shit.
Yeah.
Now, is he gifted? He's got length. He's got strength. He's got a pretty good right-hand
He's
shot.
athletic for sure.
But he doesn't have any kind of technique that's correct.
A lot of times that's heavyweights though, right, Ed?
Well, not...
Because there's, you know what I'm saying? Because the reason he got so far is because it's heavyweight.
Yeah, but there used to be heavyweights that could fight. Really good fighters.
Oh, well, for sure.
But today, there's no fighter. Today, boxing is really basically gone. Because there's no more trainers, no more fighters.
Well, you got Gennady Golovkin, you got the Russians who are really good, I think.
They're bringing a little more.
And you got Andre Ward. You've got some great fighters.
When's the last time Andre Ward fought?
That's the problem. He doesn't fight enough.
Harry Greb, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Hall of Fame, middleweight. What are they talking about Mayweather? 49-0. How old is he? 40 now?
Yeah.
49-0.
I think he's 42 now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Harry Greb was 48-0. In 1918.
When everybody was fighting.
Alone. Just that year.
Oh, wow.
Just that 1 year in 1918.
That's crazy.
He was 48-0.
He's fighting too much.
He had 300 pro fights.
He's fighting all white guys, though.
No. He's
like Babe Ruth.
He fought black guys. He fought Kid Norfolk. He fought tough guys. Yeah, Greb didn't do the color thing because he didn't have a manager. See, when Dempsey was heavyweight champion, he wanted to fight Harry Wills.
Yeah.
He wanted to fight some of them, but they said, there's no money in this.
Yeah.
It was, they had $1 million gates. But look, if I gave you an example, if you take, say, Bernard Hopkins, he'll go in the Hall of Fame.
My favorite.
100%.
In the next couple of years, right?
Easy, yeah.
When he was 26 years old, I think he was in the joint, but let's say he wasn't. His record would have been 28-1 with 18, 19 knockouts.
Mm-hmm.
If you matched him with Sugar Ray Robinson, same age, 26. Robinson's record at 26 was 91-1 with 72 knockouts.
Now, but Ed, were those amateur fights or those are all pro?
Pro.
Did they? But those guys turned pro when they were 16.
Robinson had many amateur fights.
Yeah.
His name was Walker Gillette.
There's a lot of amateur
fights. That's a lot of fights.
Fighting the best guys that ever boxed. Yeah. Jake LaMotta, Fritzy Zivic. You can't even compare it today.
Well, they didn't have because now there's a promotional build-up. There's so much money involved.
They fight
You're
once
not
a
fighting
year.
you're just not fighting a fight anymore.
You can't be a great fighter.
There's too much money involved.
You fight once a year.
Right.
Yeah.
They hit these mitts.
It's a legit point,
Those
Ed.
guys never hit mitts.
Yeah.
Heavy bag, speed bag sparring. And they had, there was 10,000 professional boxing licenses issued in New York in the 1940s.
10,000.
New York alone.
It was
There's
definitely
not 10,000 in the country.
It was a sport that people played. It was a sport that you engaged in school, in camp, in the YMCA. Boxing was a very popular American pastime.
You took the subway to work at Gleason's, and you got off the subway, and you were walking to the gym with your bag.
You get mobbed.
There were 10 teenage kids that would fight to carry your bag in for you.
You get mobbed.
When Joe Louis fought for the heavyweight title, the results of that fight was on the front page of every newspaper in the world.
That's right.
And why do you think we've gotten away from that? You think because America's become so sensitive to concussions?
I think there's a lot of reasons. That's one of them. The main one, though, was television. All the boxing clubs went out of business. All the trainers couldn't make a living anymore.
Money.
Guys like Ray Arcel, Charlie Wheel, they had 20, 30 fighters.
Yeah.
4 or 5 champs.
Yeah.
5 or 6 contenders. Well, they were working every night of the week. in some arenas.
Also with
they were learning too.
TV also brought to you the flashy excitement of sports like football, baseball, and basketball. That's very hard. It's very hard, I think, to compete with sports that most people can do, even on an amateur level. And as a team, boxing, let's be honest, is very hard to get good at. And I think it's so hard to get good at, as a lot of things are, but boxing hurts. Boxing really does break your nose and give you concussions. And I think as we got more prosperous, as we got more options, as you were able to see how exciting these other sports were, and there was more money in it, and it was a team sport, people seemed to flock to that
look
stuff.
What happened if you look at boxing in the 20s and the 30s. The best boxing was 20s, 30s, 40s. That's the best fight. The golden age.
Yeah.
You guys like Archie Moore, guys like Charlie Burley, all those guys. But those guys, you had the Irish, Dempsey.
You had the Jews,
then
and the Italians.
The Jews, then the Italians, then the blacks, then the Mexicans. But the whole thing was only the poorest were fighting.
That's right.
For sure. It's still that way, though.
It's still that way, but now the Russians are coming in. They got nothing. The Ukraine,
nothing.
They're dying.
Siberia. Yeah.
It's like Dempsey said, you could have hit me in the head with a sledgehammer, and I'm getting up because I'm hungry.
Don't you think back then too, like those guys loved the sport of boxing, they actually loved the fight. A lot of times now, especially a guy like Floyd Mayweather, granted he was brought up as a boxer, but a lot of guys are fighting for the fame and the money.
Yeah.
Which is why they're not fighting as frequently, which is maybe you're fighting for the wrong reasons.
Well, the other thing,
you also get smart about it.
Guys who came up pre-Dempsey, we'll say Dempsey because it was 1919. Pre-Dempsey, there were a lot of fist fights in America.
That's how you settle things. That's how you settle things.
And got in bars,
bars.
Murder rate
you
was...
go in bars and you challenge for money. That's what Dempsey used to do.
Which is kind of cool.
Give me lunch. I'll fight anybody in here.
Yeah.
Now, that forges tough guys.
Yeah.
Not only that, we're not talking about boxing now. We're talking about knocking somebody the fuck out as quickly as possible. So when Dempsey threw a jab, he used to have a thing called a falling step, where he would let his weight just go forward with the momentum, and he would shoot the punch. The jab was meant to either knock you out or down. Now today, these fights look like minuets compared to the way they used to fight.
But so much of that,
There's no punching.
Ed, so much of that is probably because the legacy of boxing leaves so many people broken. When you, after a while, when you start seeing how that game ends, the romance and the idea that, I'm going to be a tough guy and I'm going to take it's like when Rocky Marciano was killed, he was killed in a plane crash, right?
Yeah.
And one of the most moving things I ever heard was a sports writer said, and I can't remember his name.
Red Smith.
It was Red Smith. Then he said, just get over his body and start counting. He'll get up. He'll get up.
Yeah.
It's really a really beautiful kind of...
Except he was decapitated.
He was decapitated. Except
it was good.
Except he did lose his head. I was going to say.
But there's another guy, Marciano, could really hurt you. And he was 190 pounds.
Yeah.
I hear these guys today saying, those guys would have been too small to fight the guys today, the heavyweights today.
Yeah.
And I think, why? They can't punch.
Yeah.
Well,
they can't punch.
Yeah.
You can't compare them to Lewis, even Liston, Dempsey. You can't compare them.
It's tough to compare them.
You can't compare them because
like a young George Foreman would wreck shop these days. Like a young George Foreman in his prime
Ali
would punch
Ken Norton,
face off.
Ken Norton, these guys, Frazier.
Ed, were you surprised by the Ali passing?
No, because it was
long time
coming. It was coming. Yeah. He, I knew Dundee, and he basically said that he took all his damage in training. He was a lazy gym fighter.
That's what I hear.
He would lay on the ropes.
Yeah.
He would let guys.
You watch Larry Holmes, who was his sparring partner, and if you watch that show When We Were Kings, that documentary, which is amazing, and Larry Holmes is teeing off, man. And I remember watching him, and I said, "Who's that amazing sparring partner?" Well, it was Larry Holmes.
Well, they didn't know any better.
They didn't know any better.
They didn't know any better.
You just got your bell rung, and now we know more.
But you have to know, Larry Holmes, in my opinion, was just a mediocre guy. They make him sound like he was a great fighter. He wasn't. Really? If you watch his fights, when he threw punches,
he had a great jab.
But he stepped in the bucket. Every time he threw a jab, his right foot went backwards because he didn't want the counter. Sure. So he had long arms.
Yeah.
So he would shoot it and step
But he
back.
won for a long time and
He
fought
did
a
win
lot of
for a
good
long
guys.
time, but yeah, he fought.
Yeah.
He fought.
Who are your
His time when he was
guys
fighting.
when they were basically shot? He waited long enough.
Yeah.
Hey Ed, is there anyone that you've worked with a jagillion people who was an actual tough guy in Hollywood? Like you're like, yeah, that guy, because I feel like for a lot of actors that I meet, like guys like Brian, yourself, Frank Grillo, you guys are guys. Like I can hang out with you guys, it's all good. But usually when you meet an actor, they're very, I don't know, like very artsy.
Yeah.
Oh, boxing, no. You
Yeah.
can't really talk to them about that stuff. Like, what?
They're probably not as aggressive, I suppose. I don't know.
Like one actor, I was in the gym, and this is when I was fighting. So he asked the trainer in the gym, he goes, what's that guy do? And the guy's like, well, he's a cage fighter, mixed martial arts, UFC. And he goes, oh, no, why? And then I go, what? And he goes, why are you doing that? You're such a nice guy. I'm like, well, that's what I do, man.
what I do, bro.
That's
I'm a
what I do
fighter.
for a living. He
How
goes,
could you ask
oh,
me that?
please stop. I'm like, hey, man. Hey, bro.
Go back to make him believe.
We're from two different worlds.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I feel like, is there someone on set who you relate to more? Because obviously you're a boxing connoisseur, fighting, black belt in jiu-jitsu.
Nolte. I worked
Nolte's
with,
great.
Really?
Nolte was great.
Yeah.
Great.
I've worked
now
with him.
he's older now and he's got a lot of physical problems.
Sure.
But when I worked with him, I think he could handle himself pretty well.
Big guy.
Physical problems for just acting all these years?
Knees,
drinking.
breakdown, breakdown, breakdown.
Oh, okay.
You know,
Just
a lot of
old-
things.
caught up with him.
Everything. But he was a good football player in
Yeah.
college, and he was
big
you can
athletic
tell
guy.
he was a tough guy.
Yeah.
And do you think,
Years ago, Mitchum was a tough guy.
really?
Charlie Bronson was
Yeah.
a tough guy.
Charlie Bronson
Palance
was
was a tough guy. Jack Palance.
Jack Palance, yeah.
Fought pro.
Oh, wow.
Do you know who Jack Palance was?
No.
Jack Palance
Oh,
was
my.
in City Slickers. That's where you
I've
know
seen
him from.
City Slickers.
He was in a great movie called Requiem for a Heavyweight. But Jack Palance was
Yeah.
a big, powerful man.
6'4".
He played Curly.
face.
He played Curly in City Slickers.
Oh,
the-
yeah, I
The
know.
guy who
Really?
I don't know your way.
See Shane?
Yeah,
Did
he
you
was.
see the box? You got to see Shane if you never saw
Yeah,
it.
he's a real.
I know
tough
who you're
guy.
talking about.
Yeah,
Yeah, he seems like a tough
He
guy.
was a big.
He was.
big, strong, tough man.
Ed, did you?
He was the
Probably
equivalent of The
toughest
Rock.
Probably the toughest actor
Jeez.
would have been Victor McLaughlin.
Really?
He fought Jack Johnson
Ooh.
it was an exhibition in
Still.
but it went the distance.
Yeah, I mean,
McLaughlin was a legitimate tough guy.
most actors would like to be tough, and the tough
There's
guys.
a big difference, though.
The guys
You
who
know
are
what I
tough.
say? What about myself? I was a tough guy for 4 years of my life.
Playing football?
Just in my 20s, like
love that.
23 to 26 or 7.
I
I
hear
was
you.
a tough guy.
That's great.
I fought a lot.
Probably a knucklehead.
I was a knucklehead.
Knucklehead, tough
I
guy.
didn't know what I was doing.
Sure,
I
lost.
was doing everything out there bad.
Yeah.
And that was about it for me.
Yeah.
Did you feel like when coming to Hollywood, and maybe I've always been self-conscious. I talked to Brian about this, but being bigger, I mean, you're a big dude. Do you feel like it, like I feel like I don't, like I'll be at these auditions, I'm just like, what the hell am I going to, I'm enormous. Everyone else here is tiny.
You're also very
do you
muscular.
ever feel like, so is Ed.
Yeah.
Do you feel like it almost hurt you, or because obviously you've had a great career, but I guess I want to know, and this is even for our listeners or you guys, from a big guy to another big guy, when you go on these auditions, did it ever occur to you like, God dang it?
Well, but Ed looks like a big guy, and Ed, when he was on Married with Children and stuff, Ed looked like a blue collar big guy.
He was still
Brennan's not aware of what he really looks like.
225,
Yeah.
230?
When I was doing Married, I had gotten down to like 205.
Yeah.
I lost
Did they
weight.
tell you to do that?
No, I just did it.
You just don't realize how big you actually are and how you're.
I realize
you're very muscular, and
That's the issue. When I go on these auditions, I'm like, well,
because you look like a super athlete. There is a big there's
were you self-conscious of that,
You
Ed?
were
Is
a
my
good
question.
fighter, too. You would have been. You could have gone a long way if you really wanted to, and you had the right training.
Sure.
You would have done
Yeah.
it.
He's a hell of an
appreciate it.
athlete.
Yeah.
Hell of an athlete.
But again, they push you. That's how that UFC works.
Yeah. Do you? But I was just curious. Was size ever a thing? Did it ever occur to you, or am I just crazy on this?
Well, if I was out for Lenny and Mice and Men, it helped me.
And
If I'm out
Depends.
for Hamlet, it's a problem.
But so
Yeah.
you decide to lose weight on your own.
I did. I don't know why. I was playing a lot of handball, so the weight wasn't helping me in handball.
right.
So I started to cut, and it just sort of was happening.
And you watch a lot of the UFC.
Oh yeah.
Who are your favorite fighters?
I got a lot of guys I like. I like McGregor. I like this McGregor. I don't know why he's fighting at 170, but
It's interesting.
he's a good puncher, and he manages distance well.
Mm-hmm. He's fun to watch too. He's
fun to
unique.
watch.
He's unique,
and I kind of like him. Maybe he talks a lot of shit, but it's usually comedic.
It's entertaining.
It's entertaining.
Yeah. He knows the game, and he's beating it.
Exactly. And who else do I like? I used to love BJ.
Sure.
When he was in his prime.
Yeah, me too.
There's a lot of guys I respect.
You
all
watch a
fighters.
lot of it though.
I watch them all. Sometimes I don't pay for them though. I'll wait.
That's fair.
Are you surprised about all the steroid use? Or
no, but listen, that was happening that was starting when I was a rookie with the Steelers.
It was starting
in '69.
Hell yeah, I
used to hear talking about they got this stuff now that and I thought
came from the Russians, right, in the 50s, I think.
I don't know where it came from, but guys, a lot of guys were into speed when I was a kid. Like they, would be hot. They'd pop bennies. We used to call Benzedrine. It was real dangerous.
Yeah, I was watching this documentary on Daryl Strawberry, and he was saying how he'd pop that stuff, and he said the baseball would look like a giant saucer.
Yeah.
He's like, I couldn't miss. I would take that stuff and like
he was also
he said the ball it looked like a giant snowball.
Yeah, he also
else sees this tiny ball.
He also did a snowman's worth of cocaine.
You know what though? When I was watching that, and it's directed by Judd Apatow for 30 for 30.
Judd's a good friend of mine.
So it's Daryl Strawberry and the Dwight Gooden story.
It's great.
How both rookies of the year back to back. It's finally the Mets' year, right? Like this is their chance, and then these two just fall off the rails. But I'm watching it. You know who all I can think of the whole time? John Jones.
Oh sure, of course. Look, these guys don't have a chance.
Wow. This is what's going to happen.
They don't have a chance.
Why do you say that?
Here's why I say it. I knew a kid in Youngstown. His name was Ralph Orzechowski. He was a junkie. He was a junkie from the time he was 18 years old.
Great
kid.
Polish
Great name though.
Yeah. Ralph Orzechowski. And one time Ralph was on. In those days, they had a methadone thing that was supposedly to help you wean you off heroin. And I ran into him in the park. He was on his methadone. He had gone and got his little, they drank it. And I said, Ralph, how you doing? He goes, okay, man, just kicking, And I said, how many times you OD? He said, 4 or 5, 6. They dumped me off, at the emergency. I said, are you going to kick this? He goes, fuck no, man. I'm a junkie. And I go, why can't you kick it? He said, let me ask you a question. How old are you? I said, I'm 23. Okay. Can you stop masturbating?
That's true. It's like
I never heard anybody say that.
That's a great
probably
question.
not. He said, okay, there you go.
There you go.
Same thing.
Yeah.
Once you get hooked,
I agree.
like Strawberry and Doc, these guys they don't have any support system.
Yeah.
They got money, which is even worse.
And fame.
Jeffrey
John
Tambor.
Jones.
And options.
When they're alone.
Yeah.
What were you going to say, Jeff?
Jeffrey Tambor, who's one of my favorite actors.
Jeffrey,
yeah, he stars in right now in Transparent. I think
he's brilliant.
Yeah. And he said he was trying to figure out how to play a coke addict, and he was interviewing guys who'd had problems with blow, and one guy said one thing to him, and he got it, and the guy said, I don't know, and he said, well, can you give me, and he said, sometimes I've had times when I couldn't get it, but I thought about it and I came.
Jesus Christ.
And Jeffrey goes, that's all I got to hear. Got it.
Well, if you watch this documentary, again, by Judd Apatow, with Daryl Strawberry and Dwight Gooden are talking, and they're like, yeah, they would say, I knew I was getting tested for coke, and they're like, stop it. I'm like, okay. I have 7 figures in the bank. I have all the time in the world.
It's working.
What do you want me to do? And then I'd go to a party. It's everywhere. Like
Once they get a friend of mine, I won't name him because he's still around, but we were in New York, and the parties in the winter in New York, and where they put all the coats in one room.
Oh yeah.
And I went in I was smoking, I went in to get a cigarette or something, and he was in there tying off by the window.
Oh fuck.
I said, man, what are you doing? He goes, hey man, help me guard the door. I'll be done in a second. And he's lighting the thing in the spoon, right?
Wow.
And I had never seen anybody actually shoot in person.
Yeah. It's not going to work
he was
out.
a friend, so I said, so I'm leaning against
You're going to
the
help
door.
him out. Yeah.
So he ties it off, he gets the vein, and I see him put it in, and he starts this, and I swear to God, it was like, it was like that fast.
Ecstasy.
Yeah, and then he pulled it out, and then he started that nod thing, where I think they're,
They call it the lean.
they're going.
Yep.
And I said, hey, man, are you okay? I thought he was dying.
Yeah.
Even though I'd seen guys leaning in
Yeah.
on the streets.
Yeah.
He says, no, man, I'm cool. Go ahead, go. He got a cigarette. I said, you okay? He says, yeah, no, I'll be out in a minute. So I left. So I go out, I'm at the party, and I'm wondering, is she dead in there? 15 minutes, he comes out. How you doing, man? What's happening?
Wow. What the heck?
Everything's cool, man.
Yeah.
Hey, have you heard that new? He was like completely
Is this
normal.
a successful guy, Ed?
Yeah.
They say that heroin, because it's a natural, it's a poppy, it's an opiate, is actually something you can tolerate for a long time. Where people will do heroin, like Keith Richards, to get normal. Just to kind of get copacetic.
People can function
and
on
they
it.
can function on it.
That's insane.
But when
Yeah.
I saw him shoot and I saw the look on his face, I said to myself, don't ever try this.
Artie Lang.
Do this,
Oh, I know.
You'll like it.
Yeah.
Artie Lang said the first time he did heroin, and he's talked about this publicly, said it, and he said the first time I did heroin, I shot, my head hit the pillow, and I said, I'm in trouble.
That's right.
That's what he said, because he knew that and to this day, he says, why would I want to be anything but high like that?
Well, I had a friend, Jimmy Hayden, who was a junkie who died from it. Jimmy was a brilliant actor in New York. Everybody knows this story, but he scored from that other actor, that fucking scumbag. What was his name?
The guy was in Midnight.
Yeah.
Yeah, Midnight Express.
Yeah. At some place, and then he went back to his apartment. He lived up on like 71st and Broadway, and he was doing great. He was doing Buffalo with Pacino.
Get closer to the mic, I said.
Huh?
No, I said get closer to the mic.
Oh yeah, he was doing this play with Pacino. He was really great in it. And he called his ex-wife in L.A. He was talking to her, and she was saying, "Jimmy, are you shooting up?" He says, "Yeah." Now he was what they called in those days like a 4-bag guy, like 4 nickels.
Yeah, it's not going to work out.
And he was on his 4th. She said, "How many?" He said, 4. But she could hear him getting like slurry, And she thought, it sounds like he's further along than that, And then it was just nothing. And she went crazy, made phone calls. He didn't hang up. And the door had a bolt, so they couldn't get in until the morning. Of course, they found him in the chair with the needle in his arm.
Yep.
It was a hot shot.
Yeah.
A hot shot. You don't know. It's just Russian roulette.
It's so scary, man.
You don't know.
Like, I feel like with actors, and you guys would know better than anyone, but with actors or musicians, you work and then you have success, you get paid a lump sum of money, then you have a lot of time off.
Yeah.
With that time off, I mean, maybe you have another season come down the road, whatever it is. But that time off, it's tough, man.
Yeah.
Boredom and a lot of money and fame is trouble.
It's also a personality.
Look at the kid that just died, in Soho, or in Tribeca, the great actor, 3 Dames.
Not Heath Ledger?
Yeah. No.
3 names?
Lately, just a year ago.
Thomas Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Oh, my God.
There's a guy.
He's brilliant.
Yeah, phenomenal.
He couldn't stop.
Couldn't stop.
He couldn't
Could
stop.
not stop. Yeah.
It's so bad.
But it also depends on the type of person. Some people have a predilection for addiction, and they've done all these studies. They've all these anthropologists were talking about these evolutionary biologists were talking, about how an addictive personality works in many aspects of your life.
Yeah.
And it certainly is how we evolved to survive, because to be addictive, to be actually reward based, is how, when you were hunting, the guy who had the most patience and would obsess over finding that animal was, and over all, going through briar patches and everything else, and just whatever it takes to get that animal. Well, that sort of mentality, that mindset, that chemical dopamine release or whatever, that linear form of thinking was what kept you alive. Right. The problem is we don't have to do that anymore, and that sometimes, and this is a theory, but it made sense, that sort of drive can be refocused to, and if God forbid you do something you like that much, now you're going to follow it with that same kind of intensity.
You see a lot, like with Daryl Strawberry, his dad was an alcoholic and an addict.
Yes.
Yeah.
It depends
Chris
on
Farley was a good friend of mine, and Chris was, he was addicted.
Which is weird, because his family wasn't any of that.
No.
He didn't come from
His dad was
that.
500 pounds.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I'm not just saying.
Yeah, big
as a
boy.
number. He was 500 pounds.
Obese.
Large man.
Great, big, successful businessman. And Chris, they were Catholic. They were religious. They have a lot of weird, that heaviness.
Yeah.
He became the fat boy that was making everybody laugh, you know.
So he's kind of sad about that, and is that why he reached out to drugs?
I think so.
Yeah.
And you know, I went to John Lovitz had a Super Bowl party. This is years ago. Chris was in rehab in Venice. They had a place out in Venice, and he came in. They let him off for the day for the Super Bowl. So John had a buffet, and it was a Mexican spread, you know. Now, and Chris got there a little bit late. The game was starting. So Lovett said, "Hey, leave something for the rest of us. You know, we're going to eat a little bit at halftime." So everybody goes in the screening room. You know, it's Bel Air.
Yeah.
So shut up, you know. So now the door opens and he comes in, Chris. And what he did was he got a loaf of Italian bread and he cut it lengthwise. And he put every condiment that was on the table on this sandwich thing over and under Lovett's beloved cat.
What?
It was in the loaf of bread. And he came in holding it, and the cat was, and he goes, "I'll eat any fucking thing I want to on Super Bowl Sunday." We almost died laughing.
Dude,
He was
hilarious.
He used to do shit like this. They caught him. They couldn't find him. They were all at a party like this, same thing. They couldn't find him. Where the fuck is he? Where is he? And they're like, where, Chris? And the bathroom door is just slightly ajar. And somebody goes in and the girl screams. And they come out, and Chris, of course, has his pants down, and he's dead. He's mock dead on the toilet, like he was taking a shit, or he would pee. And
Elvis Presley.
Yeah, I think it was Spade or someone who was talking about he'd be peeing like in a public, like they'd be at the ball game, and he'd be in the stall, and you hear him go, "Ah! It burns! That bitch! That bitch! It burns! That bitch!" He was fucking hilarious, man.
He was.
Oh,
He was hilarious.
I never met him.
Did you work with him, Ed?
Never. Yeah, I did, but it was like a Wayne's World thing. We weren't together.
That's right, Wayne's World.
Yeah, but
That's
we
right.
didn't work together. But, you know, I mean, you know, I knew him. You know, I used to like to run into him. Our manager had a place in Malibu. We'd all have beach parties out there and stuff.
If you weren't an actor, what do you think you would have been?
I probably would have been a musician.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I love music.
Do you play music?
I play a little harmonica, blues harp. I used to sing a little bit in a rhythm and blues band.
The
back in
plot
Youngstown.
thickens. If you guys thought he was one-dimensional, you
No, but I like
filthy
music.
animals.
I like music. Yeah, I love music.
Wow.
So, and I still regret it in a lot of ways. You know, I think, damn, I should have. No, I may not have been any good. I have no clue.
Hey, listen to me. Look at me.
It's never too late.
There are no regrets, Ed O'Neill. Do you understand?
Should we start a band?
I mean, first of all, let's start a band.
It's a little late now.
Ed and the gang?
I'll play
Ed and the gang.
You and I can play the tambourine. That's all we're going to play.
I'll play the cowbell.
Ed'll
There was a
sing.
lot of great musicians out of Youngstown. Youngstown was very much like Prince's town, you know, where that was a big music scene, you know.
Yeah.
And
Wasn't
in
that the
fact,
Springsteen song?
I did a movie with Maurice Day. You know, remember Maurice Day?
remember Maurice Day.
He was in Purple Rain with Prince.
Maurice Day.
He was the
He was the guy, the head of the band, the leader of the band that was opposite Prince.
Okay, he did the what was
Brennan
that
was
dance
10.
He did?
He was 3.
He did that dance that was very popular.
The slide and
slide.
that.
He was like Mr. Slick, you know. One of the funniest. He would come out and comb his hair, you know,
great.
real slick.
Great sense of humor.
Yeah. So I met him on the Fort Fairlane. I was in Fort Fairlane with
Right.
Dice Clay. So
They
he
won an
came
Oscar?
over to me and he says, "Hey man, you know, blah blah blah." We're talking, and I said, "You know, you remind me, Morris, of a guy I knew in Youngstown. I grew up in Youngstown. I grew up with." I said, "Yeah," and he's looking at me like, "Motherfucker, no black people." You know. And he goes, "Black guy, right?" I said, "No, he's a white guy." He said, "I remind you of a white guy."
That's great.
And I did, because his name was Carl Severino.
Yeah.
And
An
he was
Italian
a great
guy.
singer. Yeah, Italian.
Yeah.
Italian kid from, you know, rough neighborhood. And we used to call him
love
Open Chain from Bradley Lane.
Open chain.
Open Chain, meaning he's always, you know.
Yeah. Always over there.
Should we do some fan questions?
Let's do some
with
fan
Ed?
questions.
We got a bunch for you, man. So
Current events or no? We'll just do fan
no, we'll do.
questions?
Yeah, we'll get his fan questions.
Good.
What do you got, Av?
All right, let's jump into it. First question. On Modern Family, Ed was seen reading the exact same newspaper Al Bundy was reading on Married with Children. What's the story behind that?
Oh.
I don't know, but that is true.
Is it?
Was the same paper. It was at least these papers are stock papers. You know,
Yeah.
these companies have them.
All the way from the 90s to now?
20 years later, I'm reading the same paper.
I love it.
And that was by accident.
I didn't even know about it till I saw it.
That's great. Who picked that up? Who caught that?
You can Google that. I mean,
somebody
that's
caught-
amazing.
We probably had 300 questions for him. 50 of them were about that newspaper.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
It's crazy.
I don't know how that happened.
It's crazy. All right, next one.
That was a good answer, right? I have no clue.
Yeah, not a damn clue. Next one. I hear there's talk of starting Married with Children back up again. Any truth to that?
No, I don't think so. Not now. It was great though, but 11 years, that's it.
Yeah.
Your partner in that Siegel, right? What's her name?
Katie Seagal.
Katie Seagal. Katie Seagal.
Probably was Siegel at one time.
Right? Katie
Yeah.
Seagal, yeah, right? Katie Seagal and Christina Applegate moved on to do big. I mean, all you guys.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yes.
really.
She was,
parlayed
by the way,
that.
she doesn't get her due for how hot she was when she was younger.
Oh yeah.
She was,
And Katie was a good singer.
and a great
Oh,
She
singer.
really?
was a harlot.
Sings,
Fiddler.
sings a lot of the songs on Sons of Anarchy.
Oh, really?
Blues singer. Good blues singer.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, she sang with Etta James. She sang
She could
with
sing her ass off.
Dylan.
Dang.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's very
You
talented.
really luck out with your co-stars as far as wives go.
You know what I told somebody the other day? I said, my third TV wife was just born last year.
I love
else
it.
you got, Ed?
God bless you. God bless you, man.
All right. In all your years of acting, what was the most crazy or outrageous thing you ever witnessed on set?
Oh my God. I get asked these questions, and it's funny because I can never think of a single thing.
It's a
that was-
disciplined setting. It's usually very
It is.
disciplined.
It's a very disciplined setting, and you don't often see. Maybe I'd have to say, okay, I got an answer. Towards the end of Married with Children, we had Sam Kinison on.
Oh, wow.
Remember Sam?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And Sam was, I love Sam, but for one lunch, we had a lunch break. He had strippers come in and belly dancers, and they all performed during our lunch break. That was
that's
probably
great.
the craziest thing.
great.
Pretty random.
Yeah,
That's
but
just his style.
sets are sexless. Sets are, from my experience,
Yes,
are
they
very, very professional. Everybody has a job. You're working 16
Well,
hours
it's
a
work-
day.
it's business,
It's
right? Like,
business,
there's
man.
no-
there's never that. And even Hollywood parties, like, all you guys must be, it's all. I don't know.
It's not comfortable.
Yeah, you don't have
It's like
time.
everybody is either trying to sell something, or they're trying to do something, or they're trying to be noticed. Or
Yeah.
So you often don't get the real person you're talking
Yeah,
to.
And
because
typically-
there's egos, right?
Yeah.
Especially at a party. My
Yeah.
experience in LA parties, especially if there's celebrities or whatever, if they're in the business, there's a lot of egos. So no one's going to come out of their
That's a good
out of
point.
their shell.
That's a very good
to
point.
show you any other.
Well, also,
that's why it's the little stuff
people that work a long time, like Ed, and correct me if I'm wrong, there is a lot of substance abuse in Hollywood, but if you see the people that really work and keep working, they're very disciplined.
You're right. I'll tell you a great little story. It's very brief. I was at the Emmys or one of them, and I went to the green room, and they were going to give Bob Newhart a Lifetime Achievement
That's
Award.
great.
And I had never met Bob Newhart, but of course I thought he was
Sure.
legendary. So I go in the green room, and there he is. He's standing there, and he's standing by the door alone. He's got a little glass of water, club soda. So it didn't look like booze. And I thought, geez, it's almost time for his award. But I had to walk past him to go back to my seat. And as I'm going by him, he looks and he says, "Hello, Ed." And I said, "Hi, Bob."
That's pretty
Kept going. So now I get to my seat, and Jimmy Kimmel's sitting behind me, and I told him this funny thing. He was so nice. He was just, "Hi, Ed." He said, "Hey, you know what? Let's do this. When he's introduced, because it's going to be in 5 minutes, let's leap up, standing O." He probably would have got it anyway,
Yeah.
right? But we did. As soon as they said Bob Newhart, me and Jimmy jumped up. Yeah! And everybody.
Everyone else.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
that's great.
great.
Yeah, I know. He deserved it.
Oh,
for
yeah, he
sure.
did.
For
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Such an amazing.
I love
Very
Kimmel, too.
understated guy.
Kimmel's great, by the way.
Great,
Jimmy's
brilliant.
a great guy. And
Smart
a
guy.
Very down to earth guy as
Yeah.
well. Loves to cook.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Big barbecue.
Lost a lot of weight.
He has big cookouts at his
Yes,
house, right?
I keep saying, why don't you
Especially
invite
that-
me? I like to eat.
Yeah, I heard he
like
can
to-
cook. What else you got, Ev?
All right, next question is, what is the one thing you miss most about Youngstown?
Oh man. Well, I like the food. It's a big Italian community, and the food is great. A lot of homemade stuff, beans and greens and stuff you can't. Wedding soup.
Yeah, you're not gonna find here in LA.
Wedding soup. Yeah, you don't get that. And I miss the music. Although the music I grew up on is gone. But,
Yeah.
I miss the music scene.
All right, next one. What was a bigger deal to you, being on the Steelers or getting your black belt?
Getting my black belt. was a bigger deal for me.
Because you were on the Steelers as long as I was on the Buffalo Bills.
I wasn't really on the Steelers.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So and it was black belt was, man, that was I didn't expect it.
That's a big one.
I remember when you got it. You don't remember this, but I sat with you for just maybe 15 minutes with Boom Boom. And it was right outside in that cafe where his cigar
Cafe
shop was.
Central.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we just said hi, and it was.
Did I bring it in and put it on the table?
No, but you were just talking.
Was he
about
wearing it?
He was just talking. He was just talking about it. It was like a big deal, and he was like,
You
"I
have a
got
polo
it."
on the
But I
black belt
remember-
around?
You know what?
Yeah.
They fooled me because what happened was Rorion called me and said, we're having a belt ceremony tonight. Would you come by? And I said, oh, Rorion, I knew I wasn't getting anything.
Yeah.
Because
Oh,
I was
that's
a brown
great.
belt. I had no stripes.
Yeah,
You know, you got to have 4 stripes.
yeah.
So I said, I know. He said, Ed, they love that you come out and, you know, you take pictures with them. And please. And we'll roll. We'll have a class first,
Yeah.
and then we'll do the thing. I said, okay. So I go out. We have a class. Now they're starting the award. And I thought, man, I got to stay till the end because I got to take pictures with the winners or the
Yeah.
belt guys. So now they get the black belts, which is the last awards. I know all the guys who are getting black belts because I've been with them 20 years.
Yeah,
all
you
these
came
guys.
up together.
So I said, okay, then they're going 1, 2, 3. Well, that's it. That's 5 guys. That's it. So then Henner goes, we have 1 more black belt. And I'm going, who? You know, maybe is there somebody here from
Is he in the
San
bathroom? What's
Diego,
going on here?
You know, that I don't know?
Yeah.
This guy's been with us, blah, blah, blah. He's a good actor. I went, oh, come on.
No.
So it's me. So I went to Rorion and I said, how could I get a black belt? I have no stripes. He said, the stripes were in my head.
Wow.
I didn't give you stripes because I didn't want you to count down to the belt.
I don't know
This
why.
way you think
brilliant.
you're never going to get it and you just train.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but I just really enjoyed that. I thoroughly enjoyed that story. That's a great way to get somebody a black belt.
Isn't it?
It's
Yeah.
a big fucking deal, man. The stripes were in my head.
The stripes were in my head. I kept track in my head.
What did that? So that must have been like, God, that's
Oh my. Well, you know, like
exciting.
everybody, you don't think you deserve it.
Sure.
Every belt I ever got, I never thought I deserved it. In fact, when I got
And it puts
my-
more pressure on you.
When I got my brown belt, I had the belt and it was upstairs. Well, this was in the old place on Carson, and I was rolling with a guy. So they came in and they interrupted the thing and they gave me the brown belt. So it was one of the few times they didn't put it on me. You know,
They just
normally
tossed
they
it.
just gave
Yeah.
me the belt. So I have the
I hear
belt.
you.
Thank you very much, everybody. You know, clap like they do. Okay, another 5 minutes. I got my guy on his knees. I put the belt down, and I go to finish the roll. I went, whoa, 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 whoa! You're not a purple belt. You're a brown belt. Put it on.
Yeah.
Oh,
Now the guy's trying to tap me. You
Oh,
know,
for sure.
damn right.
There's a lot more
headhunt.
pressure.
Oh yeah.
It's very strange. Like I remember starting rolling, and you know when you're doing jiu-jitsu is always my passion, so I do jiu-jitsu. But I wasn't I was training jiu-jitsu for mixed martial arts, so I was in a
Yeah,
gi
different
maybe
thing.
once or twice a
Right.
week. The rest of the days I was
gi.
no gi. So I would do these interviews, and they say, "What belt are you?" I'd say, you know, blue, purple, blah blah blah. And then I was going to, I think Brazil, and I was doing an interview, and my professor Mal Easton, you know, who really I learned all my jiu-jitsu from for a long time. He goes, "Hey, quit saying you're a purple belt." I went, "Well, that's the last belt you gave me." He goes, "Oh yeah, you're a brown belt." I'm like, "Oh, okay."
That's funny.
And then, you
That's
know,
great.
and then yeah,
That's
And
great.
he's like, "Yeah, you destroy
Yeah.
all my black belt." Here's, I'm like, "All
Yeah.
right, well."
But you have to get over worrying, like protecting the belt.
Oh yeah,
You
you'll
have
never
to
grow.
stop doing that.
Yeah, you never
Because you'll
grow.
drive yourself insane.
And you also you'll only stick to what you're good at. You won't do the things.
Yeah, and that happens to so many guys. They're
Yeah.
good on top. They'll only be on top if they're strong.
Yeah.
As soon as they go on their back, they're dead.
Yeah,
You gotta
They do what's
you gotta work
comfortable.
on what you're
Yeah.
bad at.
But that's just
It is
that's
interesting.
a challenge to leave your ego at the door. That's a big.
I think that's
challenge.
with everything.
everything.
Everything, right?
That's true.
Because again, just going to the audition the other day, Brian helped me. Man, that's so out of my comfort zone. Like I really didn't want to do it. I'm driving up. I'm like, God, there's a million other things.
Well, I was
I could
making him
do.
as interesting to watch him because it's been, you know, I've been doing it a long time. But you know, when you tell somebody just to stay still, don't
Yes.
move. Just don't move. I don't want you to move, and I want you to.
It's called aesthetic weight.
It's called aesthetic weight. I want you to have just the intention in your voice. We're not. Once you tell somebody to do that, we
Then
start
you're thinking
thinking.
about it,
We start
yeah.
thinking.
Right.
You start to.
Right.
Your body. It's like saying. It's
Yeah.
like Martin Scorsese said. that I was in my own movie and I had to walk, and I knew the camera was on me, and I just had to walk.
Walking weird.
I'm walking weird.
You're thinking about your.
Now I'm thinking about my gaits,
your
stuttering.
Arms. I was just the same thing. Right. During this audition, I'm like, why am I filming my hands?
That's
everybody. I'm like, why am I doing this? But then they go, I didn't tell you this part. Doing the audition, she goes, so you're fluent in Spanish. I went, excuse me? She goes, yeah, it says here you're fluent in Spanish. I went, see? She goes, you're fluent. I wouldn't say fluent. And she's like, yeah, we're looking for a Spanish guy. She goes, what, how are you Hispanic, Mexican? We're Spain. I went, Spain? And I'm like, what the fuck is
just lying?
Just like saying I'm already dead.
Yeah, it's like, what are we doing? I'm sweating. I'm in this weird room off Wilshire. It's like, what are we? On my way there, some guy spit on my car.
Do you know what I used? What I used to do when I learned this? I forget who I learned this from. Well, I didn't invent this, but when you audition, I used to go in, and there'd be 4 or 5 people in the room, right? Whoever they were, and the guy or girl who's going to read with you. I'd go in, and I would be polite, but not too nice. I wouldn't be like, you don't want
to kiss their ass.
Yeah, I'm just there to get the job.
Yeah,
and they already have the gig, So I'd be polite, and then they would say usually, "Oh, do you have any questions?" And normally you don't. So if you do, you ask it, but normally you don't. So they say, "Okay, you'll be reading with Trisha," and I'd say, "Okay, fine." And she might say she has the first line. It always varies, but I would say, okay. So now they've heard this. You're the 20th guy in, or whatever.
Yeah, there's been a million.
So I would say, do you mind if I take a moment? Now they always say yes, of course,
for sure.
So I would say thank you. Now I say I have the pages. I would just look at the pages. Now I could be thinking about my shopping list.
Sure.
I could be thinking about anything. My handball game.
Yeah.
But I would just look at it. Now, my theory was this does a couple of things. It lets them look at you when you're not looking at them. Mm. Can he do it, I wonder? And it calms them down.
They settle.
Yeah. You want them settled. You don't want them talking about, oh, yeah, and then this happened and so-and-so, and then let's go. No, they're not ready.
That makes sense.
So now you don't want to go too long on this.
Sure.
10 seconds.
There's a balance.
12 seconds. Mm-hmm. Then I would do this. Mm-hmm. And then
quiet start.
Now, it starts now at a different level.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
It's calmer.
That makes sense.
Everybody's calmer.
Mm-hmm. That's brilliant.
And then you do the scene. And before you know it, the scene is over. And they go, that was kind of,
Yeah, it's different.
I got a lot of jobs like that.
That makes sense.
There are a lot of techniques like that. I used to ask questions in the character, as the character.
Oh, yeah.
I auditioned for
Larry used to do that.
Yeah, it's a very effective technique because it gets you settled, and you go, is this guy from New York? Is he kind of a jumpy guy?
Yeah.
And then now you're getting in the character. But I used to when I went in for Curb Your Enthusiasm, they were looking for an Italian guy, so I had to audition with Larry David. You would always imprise with Larry David.
Oh wow!
I auditioned
and so I go in, and I don't, they don't know that I'm from America. I just, I ask some questions like this, and I do my, I'm doing a terrible accent, but anyway, but it was good at the time. And, it's blah, blah, blah. And I do the accent, I do the scene, and I go, and I make them, the casting director who knew me said, and he's not even Italian. And Larry David goes, you're not Italian? That was damn good. And I went, this is in the bag. I got it. Shook hands, and I never heard back. But the thing is, at least I went in there and I committed it. And that's the amount of that story.
For a guy who had a Jewish deli. I was completely wrong.
Really?
Completely wrong. It was like the sandwich episode where they named the sandwich after him, the whitefish sandwich, and he didn't like whitefish. So he tried to get people to change. It was very funny.
Yes.
And I was the deli owner. I was insulted he didn't like my whitefish. It was a good audition, I thought. But again, wrong.
Of course.
Wrong.
Yeah.
See, that's the other thing you have to realize in this business. You have to kind of have a sense of what you can do and what you can't.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. And Neil Simon, you guys probably don't know, Neil Simon is a giant. He's a giant as far as playwrights. And his plays were turned into movies. I'm trying to think of an equivalent of who Neil Simon was, but Neil Simon is the biggest, one of the biggest American writer in the world, of all time. And I'm doing a show called Fat Actors with Kirstie Alley. Lasted about 7 episodes. Joe Montella, who is again the #1 director on Broadway, directed Wicked, directed Angels in America, was in Angels in America, blah blah blah. And he says, "I want you to come in for The Odd Couple."
Oh, come
and
on.
I had to come in for
He
the
offered me
fucking.
that.
Did he? I had to come in for the fucking accountant, the other guy who was playing cards at the table.
Who called you in?
Joe Montella. I walk in, Neil Simon. Neil Simon is right there. And he looks at me and then looks at Joe and raises his hands like, they fucking kidding? He couldn't be more wrong. Joe Montella, before I read, he goes like this. He goes, right in front of Neil Simon, he goes, this is not going to go well.
Listen,
and I read it anyway.
listen to this. I get a phone call at my house.
Good role for you, by the way.
Answer the phone. Ed, Neil Simon. Now, I know his voice. I said, hi, how are you? Listen, I know we don't know each other. I know some of your work. I have friends who are telling me, we're going to do the revival of
The Odd Couple.
The Odd Couple in Westwood.
Yeah.
I want to offer you the part over the phone of
Oscar
Madison.
Oscar Madison.
And I said, geez, Mr. Simon, that's amazing. That's a great role. I mean, I know all the guys that played that role. And I said, who's playing Felix? Well, we don't have Felix yet. We're going to go out to Steve Martin. I said, well, if you get Steve Martin, I'm in. But I think I should wait. You should probably get us both in the room, whoever it is.
See if you vibe.
See what
Chemistry,
it's like.
Yeah.
He said, okay. Listen, I'll tell you what. Long story short, come to my office tomorrow. We'll talk. So I go to his office. I meet him, sits down. We have lunch. Now he says, let's read a little bit. Let's read some of this. Now I said, well, who's going to read Felix? I am. I know where all the jokes are. I know the whole thing. I said, excuse me, Mr. Simon. I'm being very deferential. I mean, this is Neil Simon. I said, I don't feel too comfortable with you reading Felix and I'm reading Oscar, but you're not really, you're looking at me.
Yeah.
Why don't we get someone else to come in and read Felix and you sit over there and watch the two of us?
Yeah, because that's his job.
I don't have anybody right now. I said, well, let's get somebody.
You're Neil Simon. I can get anybody I want.
You're going to have guys come in for the part. I'll be happy to come in and read with them. Okay. Well, that makes sense.
You didn't get the job.
No, I go home. Now he calls again the next day. Listen, I don't understand why you won't read. I may, and I mean, this went on for like a week or two. I said, get me a Felix. No, I'm a
Okay, man.
guy.
Yeah.
So now he says, I said, but why did you update it? Why are there cell phones now? Why are there Xerox? It's a classic. You don't need to update this thing.
It.
Now they're not the Pigeon Sisters, they're Spanish girls or some fucking thing. So finally he says to me, he calls me and he's mad. This progressed. I won't bore you with it. Listen, if you don't come in here and read with me, I think I'm going to rescind the offer. I said, Neil, I'm already gone.
Wow.
On me, I'm already gone. Bye.
See ya.
Click.
That's a big. That's
it.
Neil Simon's as big as it gets. So that's
That O'Neal, he doesn't need that gig.
He's
all set.
I couldn't work for him. He's crazy.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't know if he'd always been crazy or he just got crazy, but no, that was it.
It's nice to be in the position like, I don't need to do this. I don't know.
You get to a
I don't
point.
want this mess.
He did the same thing to Mary Tyler Moore before an opening on Broadway. He wrote her a note about you can't learn your lines, and she was not well. She got up.
You hear these crazy stories about people who are just like these monsters, and you're just like, God.
What I heard he was so pissed off about in regard to that play was his brother,
who was a writer,
and managed him, talked him into selling the rights. And so he never got any money for the TV series.
Listen, he has enough money and he should calm down.
The guy was, he was one of the greats, really, comedic-wise.
He has a brother who never really, he tried to write, it's like, and it didn't pan out.
So we both almost did the same thing.
You did, and I.
What else you got?
I just
six degrees of separation.
There it is.
Yeah.
I'm the poor man's Ed O'Neal.
All right, Ed, what is your favorite memory from Married with Children, and who was the best guest appearance you had?
Ooh.
Oh, my God.
You had Terry Bradshaw on there.
We had so many. Yeah, the guest guys, we had We had every athlete, practically.
It's exciting.
Bo Ryan to everybody. We had Joe Namath. We had.
That's right.
So I'll tell you a funny story. Usually we take out, on a Thursday, camera blocking day, I would take out the guest actors for lunch. And so this particular day we had Johnny Bench, Ernie Banks, Joe Namath, and the Snake, Stabler.
Ken Stabler.
These are all Hall of Famers.
Every
one of them.
Oh, yeah.
So I took them to Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles on, right there by Sunset Gower.
Yeah.
It was on Gower.
Yeah.
So we got a booth. Now I'm sitting with 4
Hall of Famers
and me. And we're finishing up, and this young girl comes over to the table, and she says, Mr. O'Neill, my father is your biggest fan, and blah, blah, blah. Would you mind, please, taking a picture with me? I said, no, not at all. And I'm looking like...
Doesn't even see
these
those
other
guys.
Johnny Bench,
Yeah.
Ernie Banks, Snake. And she says to Namath, sir, would you take the picture? Namath didn't think this was too funny, from what I saw.
Yeah, it's
The rest of the guys were laughing.
Broadway Joe.
So, and I think he was going through some things at that time.
Still is, yeah.
So he takes the picture, and I said, is your father a sports fan? And she said, oh, yeah, he's a big sports fan. I said, I'm sitting with 4 Hall of Famers. And I named them all, and she goes, oh, hello. She didn't know who they were. That's like glorious fleeting, right?
Yeah.
It's so true.
Shit.
Didn't know them.
Her dad would flip out.
Last question, Ev.
Yeah.
All right. Last one is: do you still keep in touch with the squad from Married with Children?
Yes, I keep in touch. Well, for the most part, I keep in touch with David Faustino, Katie Segal, Christina Applegate. I don't see David, let's see. He's in New York. Marcy, I don't see at all.
How's David Faustino? He's my buddy.
He's great. He's the nicest guy.
I love that
He's my buddy. But you got to ask how he is.
I've known him forever.
Great guy.
He's such a good guy.
Who is he on the
Dave's
show?
he played the kid.
Bud.
Bud's a great guy, man.
But
What's Bud do these days?
He has a production company.
He had a
does
web
rap
series
things.
Rap.
He produces rap.
Well-
He did rap for a while.
Oh, wow. Sounds like things are going well.
He just got married. He had a baby.
Yeah.
So he's doing good.
That's
He's
cool.
doing great.
Such a good guy.
That's awesome.
But I still see them.
Well, Ed, we know you're busy, man, and I can't thank you
No, I'm
enough
not.
for coming
Dude,
down.
it's great to have you.
No,
man.
not. I do what I want.
Well, are you shooting a Modern Family right now, or you guys are
No,
on
we
hiatus?
go back next week.
11th season.
8th.
8th.
As a married was 11th.
11th, yeah.
Yeah.
It's so cool, man.
That's exciting. What's a man who's done all that? What are you looking forward to in the next? I think you'll probably
now I
be.
see. This is the thing.
Look, you're gonna be. Let's just say you're alive for another 30 fucking years,
Yeah, right.
at least.
See, I never planned anything in my life. I was one of those guys that just went, followed my nose. And
Yeah.
one step, one day, and so I don't plan things.
I love
But
it.
I have
go.
been thinking. I have a place in Hawaii on the Big Island.
Yeah.
And I've been spending a little more time there. But I've got 2 daughters. I've got a girl. I've got a 16-year-old and a 10-year-old.
Wow. So
So
you're
that-
busy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're busy.
So you're a type A. I mean, I would imagine. Do you do well on vacation, or is it tough for you?
I do great on vacation.
Especially in Hawaii.
Yeah, because I'm not a type A. I'm like a lizard on a rock.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I can just go and hang out and do nothing.
Wow.
After
That's impressive.
a while, I go, I'd like some Italian food.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear you.
But
I want to
normally,
roll.
yeah.
Do you still roll?
I still roll, although I'm nursing a back injury. I hurt my back.
Doing kettlebells?
No, my wife. Well, that was before. I've taken on a suitcase up a flight of stairs for my wife, loaded with books. And it didn't hurt me going up, and then I'm coming down. It started to spasm.
Sure.
And I thought,
That next morning, enjoy
okay,
that.
This is 2 weeks of hell.
Yeah.
It's been almost 4 months.
Damn.
And it's not, I can do things, it's just aches. And it comes and goes.
I thought I was dying last night. I woke up, my heart area hurt very badly. Yeah. It's gone now, but it's still nagging me. Anyway, I'm not going to get it checked out.
I'm a little bit of a hypo sometimes, yeah.
I hear you. All right, man.
Ed O'Neill.
Guys, this is a great show.
Yeah,
Thanks,
thank you
buddy.
so
I
much,
really
Ed.
enjoyed doing this
Yeah,
show.
You're
the
welcome
best,
back
man.
anytime, man.
Always. Open door policy. Ed O'Neill, everybody.
Ed O'Neill, ladies and gentlemen.
Thanks, guys.
You know what? Before we get into current events, I just want to wear some undergarments that I can return if I don't like them, or I can just keep with no question asked. And I want them to be sustainably sourced, and I want them to be made out of be made out of Austrian birch trees. I want them to be twice as soft as cotton. That's all I'm asking for.
I feel like you're asking for too much.
But I also want shipping. I want shipping to be free
All right,
in the U.S.
just
and Canada.
greedy.
I know. I can't help it. By the way, I also want 20% off my first order, and I want to save up to $8.
Can I add what I would like to, along with all that?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'd like them to be kind of artsy design. And then I also want to match them with my girls.
What?
Yeah,
Do you want
matching?
Do you want to get a subscription plan and have them come once a month?
Once a month, where I don't have to think about it. They drop off the best underwear on planet Earth.
Really?
Are we asking for too much?
I don't think so. You know what we're asking for?
What?
MeUndies.com. That's what we're asking for. That's right. Get on the subscription plan. You get a single pair, 20% off your first order. Go to MeUndies.com/fighter, and we'll give you 20% off. You think we're playing around? All right. Now, let's get into current events. Evan, give me some current events.
No problem. First current event that I want to talk about is, Brendan, did you see the Michael Page knockout of Cyborg Santos over the weekend?
Yes.
Oh, God.
I was busy Saturday night, and so I recorded that and the Deontay Wilder fight. And so Sunday morning, I woke up, had my coffee, turned on that fight. Other than that fight, those fights were interesting. But Michael Venom Page is a fucking monster. Granted, I like what Bellator is doing with him because he's by far their youngest, biggest prospect. I think he's 28, so he's not that young, but still, with his stand-up, it's amazing. Now, how would he do? Everyone's like, man, I wonder how he'd do in the UFC, blah, blah. Right now, he would get ate up like Kobayashi.
He would?
Kobayashi's
Because of his wrestling?
Because his grappling wrestling's a little suspect. And, fighting Cyborg's old, man. Cyborg's older. He's had so many miles on him. He's a journeyman at this point in his career right now. So he fought a Cyborg who could not figure out where the kicks or punches were coming from. Michael Venom Page was too fast. And then to top it off, when he decided to commit to a punch, Michael Venom Page kneed him in the forehead that shattered his skull.
I've never seen anything like that. I've never seen anything like that.
The picture I sent you?
Oh, my God. That dent. Well, now, is he okay? I mean, did that hit his brain?
Well, he's having
skull fracture.
Yeah, he's skull fracture. He's having surgery.
You
but
can
then
die.
Bellator's paying for, obviously, UFC does too. They're paying for all his medical bills, and they're giving him his win bonus in the fight.
Good.
But he's going to be out for a while.
Well, yeah.
He's out for a long time.
Well, but is he? He's okay, I guess.
Yeah.
I'd imagine he's concussed. He's got to be concussed.
He's alive. Forget the concussion. He's lucky to be fucking alive, basically.
He's in no danger of dying.
Yeah.
He's at the hospital. He's having reconstructive surgery. He's going to be out for a while, though.
I read somewhere that, it was the Bellator announcer, Jimmy Smith.
Yeah.
He tweeted that he talked to I believe a judge. I think it was a judge. Still calling it that. A judge who was also had worked as an EMT and said that kind of damage, the only time he had ever seen that as an EMT was in severe car accidents.
It was insane, man. And his legs and knees look like the pole of this mic.
Oh, you mean what's his name?
Michael Venom Page.
Yeah, very thin guy.
These are his two legs.
Yeah, very skinny
like
guy.
this.
Yeah, that's like a gazelle. Gazelles have skinny legs, and they can they can kick you in the face.
Dude, that guy's a fun talent to watch, though, man.
How about that celebration too?
The Pokemon?
Yeah, what was that? He rolled
Pokemon, because Pokemon's so big right now.
Okay.
Yeah. He's fun to watch.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be a dream matchup. Him versus Wonder Boy.
Ooh,
what a fun matchup.
Is he? Yeah. Wow.
It's cool, right?
Yeah, it'd be really interesting to watch.
But yeah, again, grappling is going to be interesting for that guy. What else you got?
So they set up Chris Cyborg has set up a GoFundMe page for him because, as you said, Bellator's paying for everything.
Are they still married?
But no, they're not. They seemingly are pretty cool with each other, though, so that's good.
Yeah, she was like, my ex-husband needs some help. He's not going to be able to fight. GoFundMe.
Yeah, exactly.
Is there any money in there?
I'd assume so.
Hope so.
I'd assume so. I mean, the MMA community is pretty good about getting behind.
Yeah, they hook people up for sure. Yeah, they rally around the troops.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to be out for quite a while, so.
Yeah, I wonder how long. At least a year. Deontay Wilder's out for the rest of 2016.
Poor K.
And that
he broke his hand, right?
In that Areola fight, he broke his hand, and he has a torn bicep. He's out for a while. Not a great fight, man.
Nope.
I mean, I haven't. Shit, I can't remember the last Deontay Wilder fight I've missed.
Ed O'Neill was a little critical of his technique. How do you feel about that? You were kind of quiet.
I mean, listen. What do you want me to? Want me to embarrass Ed O'Neill with my
No.
boxing
No,
knowledge?
but what do you think?
If that's his opinion, that's cool, man.
Yeah.
I mean, it's he's an actor. It's cool. I mean, he knows fighting. He knows his stuff. Does he know how to throw a punch? Should be critiquing punching? No, but as a fan, you can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Trust me, I get it way worse on the internet.
No, I'm saying
I'll post a picture of me squatting whatever 600 pounds. Someone's like, bro.
your technique.
You gotta break parallel. And they click on his page and some guy in his mom's basement, all of 140 pounds with a bag of Doritos. I'm like, all right, well.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that, again, I respect him. I admire you.
Yeah.
Same with my dad. My dad will say some outlandish shit. Man, there's seniority here. You're not going to embarrass a guy in his knowledge.
No.
It's guy code,
Ed knows his stuff.
He's doing this stuff.
Yeah.
Well, he's doing it. He's doing us a favor by coming on the show.
Of course, 100%.
You don't embarrass a guy like that.
There were some times in that fight where, I mean, and I don't know shit about boxing, definitely not boxing technique, but there were definitely some times in that Wilder fight where it seemed like he just didn't respect Areola to such an extent that he was just almost decided, like, I don't need to use a lot of my technique. Like, he was throwing right hands from fucking down here. Just
He coasted a lot. He's not going to win any
like
fans
full
doing that.
wind-ups, like, no
I mean,
subtlety to it at all.
Deontay Wilder, whatever, 34-0,
he
but
can do whatever the fuck he wants.
he's, Areola didn't look great. Areola, he didn't look great. It was just, I don't know. You're not gonna win any fans fighting like that.
Good in-fight dance moves, though.
All right,
good taunting.
again, not good. Again, Wilder he says he wants to fight Klitschko and Fury and Anthony Joshua's and Ortiz. I think he's gonna be in some trouble, man.
Yeah, I would not want to fight Anthony Joshua.
What else you got, brother?
Now. On the same day that we got the Brock Lesnar news, which to me was the least surprising MMA news of all time, we also got some of the most surprising MMA news of all time.
What's that?
The Russian Federation overturned. They accepted Maldonado's appeal. They overturned it and turned it into a draw.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Because originally they didn't, right? They're like, nah, we're good.
Well, I don't know if they ever said we're good.
You know what happened with
when
him?
Maldonado appealed, I was like, you got to be fucking kidding me. You fought Fedor in Russia. The fight is obviously sanctioned by the Russian fight organization, whatever the hell it's called.
Russian mafia.
Yeah. Good luck getting fucking a Fedor win overturned.
Because so no contest. Because I had it.
They made it a draw. They turned it to a draw.
I can see a draw because that first round's 10-8. Then you give Fedor the last two rounds. I can see a draw.
Yeah, it's the World MMA Association. They overturned it and turned it into a draw.
I can see that. I mean,
and they cited
it's
Fedor's
surprising
relationship with the head of the Russian MMA union as a reason
conflict
why
of interest.
Yeah.
Again, who gives a fuck? If it was 10 years ago, I'd be all over Fedor and him fighting. Who cares?
Yeah.
What else you got?
Yeah, it wasn't so much about the fight. It was just I was absolutely shocked that they overturned it.
For sure.
Like that's some of the least expected news I've ever heard. Like, does it matter that much?
Russian sports has had a black eye for a little while now with this Sochi Olympics and all that. So
Yeah. Who would have thought the Russian MMA organization would be
true.
better at overturning things that shouldn't have happened than the U.S. one?
I agree.
Weird.
That's a good point. Our boy
And now-
Mitrione looked good though in Bellator. I mean, he's fighting.
He fought again.
He's fought that Ollie Thompson, the big strong man.
I didn't see that one. How'd it go down?
They just stood and banged. They both ate shots, and then Matt caught him with a left hook, and then finally fell down the second round.
Matt finished him second round TKO?
Yeah. It's Matt's making more money than he's ever made. He's fighting way lesser competition. It's a smart move for him, man.
Getting more fights too. He already fought twice in the last 2 or 3 months,
and probably made more,
maybe more as much as he would fight in a year in the UFC.
Well, but he also made more money in those 2 fights than he did probably 2 years fighting the UFC. And again, these guys he's fighting they don't make a UFC roster. Let alone, Matt was fighting top 10 guys for a long time. So easy work. He's winning. He's fighting frequently. So he looked good.
All right.
Well, what else you got, Ev?
That's it.
I'm always wondering, every time I come here on the mic, I wonder if we can do it again. And somehow we do it again.
We go on weird tangents.
Yeah.
Boom, Ed O'Neill, a.k.a. Al Bundy for most of the listeners. My brother's favorite show. Do you remember how love and marriage goes together like a horse and carriage? This, I tell you, brother. That's a Frank Sinatra song. Do you know that?
I did know that.
I did not know that.
But I didn't know it until
10
you
years
just
ago.
told me, and I remembered that it was.
Oh, wow.
So
So
that's
you
why
don't
I
know.
went, I did.
He was a
know
fun
that.
interview, though.
He's awesome.
We're having more actors on, but in general, we usually stay away from actors.
He's a piece of history. This guy
He's a legend.
Yeah, and he's also just a man's man. He's a fucking.
Well, like I
dude.
said, I knew him before from the Grace Academy. I've met him a few times. We run the same circle,
Yeah.
so to get him in here was a no-brainer.
Good people.
Hopefully you guys enjoyed the show. Don't forget, this is the last week to pre-order the Roots of Fight and Fire and the Kid collab summer tee in Venice Beach, California. It's summer every day, bitches, and it comes in summer yellow, gray, and women's tanks, and it's available in white as well. Again, this collab, after I think this Sunday is the last day you can order, then they're gone forever. This collab is only a 2-week program. Some of the proceeds goes to a charity. So boom, that's how we're doing it. tfatk.com for all that stuff. Again, Sunday is the last day you can order these things, so get your order in now, and you will get a fresh fucking tee for the summer. And as you guys know, we are coming to Phoenix, Arizona, the 29th and the 30th.
Of July.
Of this month. Obviously, and for sure, very obviously, of July. We will be there July 29th and the 30th. One show on the 29th, one show on the 30th. Those are both almost sold out. Go to tfatk.com right now. Brian Callen, where are you going to be at?
I'm going to be at Oxnard in Oxnard, California, at their new club called Levity Live. I believe I'm opening. I think I'm opening.
For who?
I'm just opening that club.
It's the
they said they
club.
called me up and said, come down August 4th, August 5th. Can you do it? I go, fuck yes.
Boom.
I'll be in Oxnard. That's about an hour away from California. I will be there.
From California
an
or
hour
Los
away from
Angeles?
Los Angeles. I will be there the 4th and the 5th of August. So come get your tickets at oxnard.levitylive, LEVITY live.com.
The Fire and the Kid will be there in October. So you got some time, but we'll be at the same club.
Yeah.
tfatk.com for all your needs, the Roots of Fight collab tee, and also Phoenix Live tickets. Get them while they're hot, kids. Thanks for listening. This is the Fire and Kid. We're out.